Inside the fire formation, as the fire giant bowed, Wang Lin calmly stepped forward. The giant allowed Wang Lin to step onto its hand and raise Wang Lin up to its head. Wang Lin walked off the hand and stood on the fire giant's head. Wang Lin raised his hand and pointed ahead. The giant suddenly stood up and let out a roar toward where Wang Lin pointed. As it roared, the 9 fire Keelins stood up and trembled. Their expression became fierce, and they also roared. The people on Planet 5 Elements felt their scalps go numb, and their hearts started beating violently when they saw where Wang Lin had pointed. Because in their eyes, Wang Lin was pointing toward the vortex at them. As a result, the giant and the 9 Keelins were roaring at the hundreds of cultivators around the tower, and the 4 people watching from the mirror inside the tower. Under this sudden roar, many of the cultivators around the tower subconsciously retreated, their faces turning pale. Blood flowed out of the mouths of the low-level cultivators. They retreated back far and sat down. Before their panicked gazes, Wang Lin was standing on the giant's head with the 9 Keelins following him. The giant stepped forward and waved its arm. With this wave, the world of the fire formation suddenly collapsed. Just as it collapsed, the image inside the vortex suddenly changed. What appeared before everyone was the sea. The sea was endless, and its end could not be seen. The waves roared as if the heavens were roaring. The sky in this world was dim and filled with clouds. There was no lightning or thunder, but heavy rain was falling. This was a shocking image. Above the sea, there were monstrous waves roaring. A handsome middle-aged man with black hair holding a blue lance appeared from the waves. He slowly raised up with the waves. 5 Element Celestial Water General. It is our Guiyi Sect's Lord Water General. Lord Water General is in closed-door cultivation most of the time. Now that he has appeared, the invader 1T be able to survive the water formation. Lord Water General has a complete water spirit body, and when he is inside the formation, his power increases greatly. That despicable invader will die for sure. When the middle-aged man appeared, the surrounding Guiyi sect cultivators felt new strength injected into them and became excited. An old man who was at the mid-stage of Nirvana Cleanser let out a roar. Fellow sect members of the Guiyi sect, someone has now provoked us. We treated him with respect, but he was arrogant to the extreme. He broke into our formation and even stole 2 of the 5 spirits. He is an invader. How can we let him in? The old man's voice was hoarse and his eyes were filled with hatred. Reveal character. That's right, this person is named Wang Lin and I know a bit about him. He is infamous outside Planet 5 Elements and is extremely cruel. Wherever he goes, all life is extinguished, and he leaves no one alive. Another person walked out and roared. Not long ago I heard about a family named Tang on a cultivation planet. He caught the fancy of a treasure from their family and actually massacred the entire family, including the mortals. Not even the old or young were spared, and flood flowed like a river. I also know that our kind elder Naduo met this Wang Lin while he was massacring mortals and taking advantage of female cultivators. He acted to intervene but didn't kill him, because it was difficult to cultivate. However, rather than being thankful after his cultivation level increased greatly, he is slaughtering his way to Planet 5 Elements. He says he is here to see Elder Naduo but is in fact here to destroy our Guiyi sect. How can we let a shameless and despicable person like him enter Planet 5 Elements? This demonic cultivator should be killed by everyone. Killing him means saving countless people. Everyone, although our cultivation levels are low, we have more people and he is only one. Words like these became more and more common. Soon, people who didn't know about Wang Lin at all began to believe these words. They looked at Wang Lin inside the vortex with anger and hatred. Wang Lin couldn't hear these words, but even if he could, he wouldn't care at all. At this moment, as he stood on the head of the fire giant, it walked out from the fire formation. Before him was the vast sea and rain falling from the sky. The rain fell on the fire giant and the 9 Keelins, creating sizzling sounds. Among the 5 elements, water and fire could never coexist. Inside the water formation, the 9 Keelins growled. Directly before Wang Lin, the black-haired middle-aged man stood on top of the rolling waves. He held the blue lance and wore armor as he coldly looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin! The moment Wang Lin looked over, the middle-aged man suddenly let out a roar. He jumped into the air and waves appeared under his feet. The wave came crashing in toward Wang Lin. Roars came from the sea around Wang Lin. Then 4 tall walls of water appeared, completely sealing Wang Lin inside. At the same time, the black-haired middle-aged man let out a roar and jumped into the air with his lance. He thrust this lance down at Wang Lin, who was trapped by the walls of water. His body moved with the lance and turned into a ray of blue light. As the man moved forward, the clouds in the sky became even more dense and rain began to fall. The rain formed a lance of water that followed after him. All of this happened too fast. The 9 killings behind Wang Lin roared and rushed out toward the lance, but they were immediately drowned by the monstrous waves. Even Wang Lin's body and the giant fire giant were drowned by the sea when the wall of water collapsed and the water lance swept by. As Wang Lin was completely submerged by the sea, the lance formed by the rain also stabbed into the water. The sea roared and thunderous rumbles echoed, setting off monstrous waves. Wang Lin and the fire giant disappeared from the world. The only thing that remained was the handsome black-haired middle-aged man. The middle-aged man looked cold and proud as he slowly said, "Just this mere cultivation level, I am the water spirit. So inside the formation, I am God. Your fire essence has no use here." As his words echoed, all the Guiyi sect cultivators around the tower cheered. Now that Lord Water General has come out, who can resist? No matter how powerful the Vile One's fire is, it will be extinguished before Lord Water General. Lord Water General has already entered the legendary 3rd step. That damn invader, what qualification does he have to resist? Bursts of cheers came from the cultivators around the tower. The middle-aged man looked extremely smug as he held the lance in his hand and let out a roar. "Wang Lin, you only injured. Get out here for me." Just as he finished speaking, a violent rumble came from the sea below. The sea water erupted into the air, and the curtains of water blocked the Water General's vision. The Water General was about to descend. However, at this moment, a cold voice came from behind him. "I am here." The Water General's expression changed greatly and he turned around. Wang Lin stepped out from the water and his right hand hit the Water General. Wang Lin's essences and ancient power rushed into the Water General's body. His 5 organs collapsed, all his bones shattered, and his flesh and bones were almost separated. The Water General coughed out blood and was thrown far away by the shock wave. Popping sounds came from his body and cracks appeared on his armor. However, the armor didn't collapse. Instead, a large amount of life force came out of the cracks and helped the Water General recover from the fatal injuries. Wang Lin exclaimed softly and slowly walked out. "Very strange armor you have in T reached the 3rd step, but with this suit of armor you can display the strength of a 3rd step cultivator. However, the armor is filled with drawbacks when you put it on. It is not you controlling the armor, but the armor controlling you." Wang Lin's eyes were filled with bloodlines as the restriction essence caused everything he saw to change. He was able to see through the secret of the armor. His words were very casual, but they caused the Water General to be filled with fear. At this moment, outside the 5 rings, the mysterious Grand Empyrean Xuanluo stood there, watching everything. When he heard Wang Lin's words, Grand Empyrean Xuanluo revealed a happy smile. "So this child is called Wang Lin. Very good, very good. The Guiyi sect's armor is very famous even on the immortal astral continent. For him to be able to see through it, he is very good." The new chapter is late, but it has over 500 more words than the previous ones. I hope not to be hit. Wishing for the like button for the video. The Water General's terror was as big as the waves in the sea. This armor had been given to him by his ancestors. He had used the armor for a long time and slowly used his bloodline to fuse with it to make it his. Without this armor, he was only a 4th heaven's blight cultivator. With the armor, he could become a 3rd step cultivator. However, the armor was extremely strange. Once he put it on, his mind would be limited, and his body would be manipulated by the armor. He remembered that when the ancestor gave it to him, the ancestor said that, even in the ancestral sect, the armor was rare. It was very difficult to refine, and wouldn't be handed out unless one achieved great merits, or was going to some dangerous place. Every armor was very precious, and could not be taken by an outsider. What caused the Water General's heart to tremble was that Wang Lin's attack caused cracks to appear on the armor, causing his entire body to shatter. If not for the armor sending out life force to save him, he would have already died. What terrified him the most was that with just one glance Wang Lin was able to see through the secret of the armor. That kind of insight and power caused the Water General to feel a chill in his heart. When Wang Lin glanced over, the Water General saw the bloodlines in Wang Lin's eyes. Those bloodlines contained some kind of rule that caused him to lose himself for a moment. Take off the armor and I can spare you. At this moment, the water around Wang Lin and the Water General fell, removing the water curtain that had been blocking everyone's vision. When the cultivators from the Gui sect saw the Water General in such a sorry state, they were awakened from their previous joy and became silent. The Water General's expression was extremely gloomy. Wang Lin's words caused his heart to beat violently. He clenched his teeth and held back the fear he felt. He then jumped backwards and put some distance between himself and Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression was still the same as before as he coldly looked at the Water General retreating. He saw the Water General raise the water lance, and killing intent appeared in his eyes. Wang Lin wouldn't show any mercy to people not from the cave world. There was nothing to say to robbers. You recording death? Wang Lin stepped forward toward the Water General. The Water General's face was pale, and his eyes were filled with madness. He raised his right hand and threw the lance into the sea below. The water lance gave off a dazzling glow, causing the sea below to rumble. Whirlpools appeared in the sea below. With my water spirit body, gather the power of water. The Water General coughed out a mouthful of blood at the sea below, and his hands reached out toward the sea. With this, the waves rumbled as if there was a giant dragon moving below the sea. As his hands reached out, the entire sea seemed to boil and rise. From a distance, this was a shocking sense. The entire sea flew into the air toward Wang Lin. At the same time, the Water General coughed out blood once more, revealing a tired and struggling expression. His left hand reached out at the sky. Clouds open and fog scatter. The light destroy all. Rain forms the sea. The Water General's left hand rumbled, and all the clouds collapsed. Another sea seemed to appear in the sky and suddenly fell down, connecting with the sea below. The two fused together to form a giant ball of water that floated there. Instant create! This ball of water was turbid and had the color of the sea. Its size was endless, and at a glance, it was impossible to see where it ended. It was like a small planet made of water. Drop of the universe! The Water General clenched his teeth and completed the spell passed down by his ancestor. His flesh began to wither, and his handsome face became filled with ugly pus. He could not have survived this long with his own life force. 4 heaven-s blights had erupted in his body. With his talent, he couldn't have passed them safely. He had only been able to survive due to the armor, but now he had used all the power inside the armor. Without the power from the armor protecting him, he returned to how he should look. Before him, the giant ball of water rotated like crazy. As it rotated, it began to condense at a rapid rate. Every time it shrank one size, the pressure inside would increase countless fold. If the giant ball of water could be refined into one drop, even if there was a star system inside, it would collapse. This was the power of water, the power of the water essence. Wang Lin was inside the ball of water, watching the water move. The pressure from the water came from all directions and gave off a destructive aura that could destroy anything. Wang Lin's eyes shined as he stared at the water around him. His eyes revealed a strange light along with an extreme sense of excitement. This is the power of the water essence. The excitement in Wang Lin's eyes became even stronger. It is very easy to leave this place, and even killing this Water General would be easy. However, this is a great opportunity that is difficult to come by. By relying on the armor, the Water General has created the water essence. This force is currently changing before me, and if I can comprehend it, I will no longer have 7 essences but 8. Just as Wang Lin had expected, this kind of thing was extremely rare, especially since the water essence the Water General controlled was not ordinary. It had been formed by the Gui sect on the immortal astral continent through a special method. This water essence had been formed by peak comprehension of the water essence. This was the same as exposing everything before Wang Lin. It was even countless times more clear than a teacher passing down his teachings to a disciple. How could Wang Lin let an opportunity like this go? Although his talent was not excellent, his comprehension and insight were extremely strong. Otherwise, he would have never obtained essences. Also, it wasn't as if Wang Lin had never encountered the water essence before. Back when the heaven-defying bead needed to absorb water, and when the ulcer gave him the drop of water essence, Wang Lin had the guidance to walk down the path of water essence. The excitement in Wang Lin's eyes reached a peak. He didn't waste any time and immediately sat down inside the rapidly condensing ball of water. His eyes revealed a strange light as he watched all the changes happening inside the water before him. These changes looked like they had no pattern, but when the bloodlines appeared in Wang Lin's eyes, he gradually found some clues. His eyes shined with excitement as he rapidly memorized the changes in the water essence. Aside from Wang Lin, it was difficult for others to notice. The water general didn't notice it at all. His expression was fierce, and he also had a hint of excitement in his eyes. He stared at the ball of water, and his hands continued to form seals, causing the water essence to become stronger and the water to shrink faster. In just half an instant of time, the water went from an endless size to mere hundreds of thousands feet. The essence inside this hundreds of thousands feet ball of water became even stronger as the seawater and rain condensed. Even if your cultivation is heaven-defying with his drop of the universe, the power of my spell has increased greatly. I'll squeeze you into one drop and refine you to your death. The water general formed seals like crazy and hit the ball of water. Every hit caused the power of the armor to ripple through the water and to shrink faster. Wang Lin almost felt gratitude toward the water general. The water general's actions were allowing Wang Lin to see even more changes in the water essence and comprehend it even better. The hundreds of thousands of feet of water shrank down about half down to 200,000 feet. The water general looked excited but gasped rapidly as if he was out of power. The water general looked up at the sky and let out a roared "Na duo, help me!" After he roared, a vortex appeared in the sky. The power of metal came out and immediately spread out. The metal water of the 5 elements. People had different opinions about how the metal water came to be. Some say that it was metal melted into water. Others believe that water would naturally gather on metal after the metal has been exposed for a long period of time. But whatever was the real truth, it made all the ancient sages believe that metal could give birth to water. This was indeed the truth. The moment the metal element arrived, the water around Wang Lin shrank even more rapidly. The water general's laughter became a sneer. "Wang Lin, you re-dead." At this moment, outside Planet 5 Elements, the mysterious Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo's eyes revealed a strange light. Looking at what was happening, he didn't know what to say. Aside from the strange light from his eyes, he didn't know if he should cry or laugh. How is this refining him? It is clearly helping him comprehend the water essence. This child has the ancient Tao bloodline, but also spells from the celestials. This is extremely rare. And he actually has 7 essences inside his body. This is extraordinary. The use of the bloodlines in one's eyes to contain the restriction essence, I have never seen anyone do that before. Ancient and celestial duo cultivation. The end of the year is here, brothers. Give a like for Leo. As the water general sneered with excitement, on the th floor, Na Duo, who had sent out the metal element, also smiled. He was still observing this battle with divine sense, and his smile was very wide. He didn't think Wang Lin could walk out, because the water essence inside the ball of water was so dense that even he felt it was terrifying. This water essence was not from by the water general but the armor. It was precisely because of this that Naduo was even more confident. I thought he had some heaven-breaking method, but he is only this strong. If he could come out, he would have come out when the ball of water formed. I presume now he must be feeling despair inside there. Wang Lin, there is no feud between us, and I really don't want to kill you. But you are a cultivator of the cave world. We are different from you. You must have come here with a purpose. The cave world is a mess right now, and several forces are looking for the third soul. For you to come now, the purpose is obvious. As Naduo pondered, his smile widened. Also inside the tower, the black-robed old man and company stared at the mirror. The black-robed old man's eyes were filled with excitement as he laughed. This Wang Lin was so arrogant before. Now that Lord Water General has come, I want to see how he escapes. A drop of the universe is a grand spell of the Gui Yi sect. This person is dead. The middle-aged woman also looked happy as she stared at the ball of water inside the mirror. Hatred filled her eyes. Die. Once you die, that Situnan will be sad. The more angry he is, the better I feel. Situnan, you Renex! The middle-aged woman let out a shrill laughter. Even the 2 cultivators beside them that had been calm slowly smiled. He can't escape anymore. At the same time, outside the tower, endless cheers continued. All the Gui Yi sect cultivators looked at the sky with excitement in their eyes. They looked at the shrinking ball of water, as if they could see Wang Lin's painful expression and hear his miserable cries. The water general was the most excited. He continued to wave his hand, and the ball of water continued to condense. The ball of water was now less than 100,000 feet wide and was shrinking even faster. The water was turbid and rumbles came from it. It was the sound of the water condensing, and was like the song of the heavens to the water general. It's too slow. I need to be a bit faster to not prevent any accidents. For some reason, although the water general was excited, as the ball of water got smaller, he suddenly had a terrifying feeling. This feeling came so suddenly, even he was puzzled. However, this confusion made him worried, and the only thing he could do was make the ball of water condense even faster. His hands formed a seal, and he spit out a mouthful of blood. His body weakened greatly, but the blood caused the ball of water to shrink from 100,000 feet to 70,000 feet. This sudden change caused rumbles to come from Wang Lin inside the ball of water. His body became distorted, but his eyes were filled with excitement. Wang Lin was comprehending all the changes inside this water essence. It seemed the changes had reached their limit and were slowing down. Wang Lin felt like the water had no more power to cause the water essence to change. It was as if Wang Lin was learning a secret, but the second half had just disappeared. This feeling of being left hanging made him feel very uncomfortable. Just as he frowned, the blood from the water general caused the water to change once more. Wang Lin almost wanted to laugh. He could never forget the gift the water general had given him. How could Wang Lin kill someone who had given him something the moment he wanted it? What made Wang Lin even more excited was what the water general said next. Naduo and all Guiyi sect disciples, send your divine sense into the formation. Help me refine it into one drop in 3 breaths. Naduo's hands formed a seal and golden light shined, forming a suit of armor around him. He stepped out from the tower with the armor around him. Send your divine senses into the formation. Today, my Guiyi sect willed remove a demon from this world. Naduo roared as his hands formed a seal. His divine sense rushed toward the vortex in the sky. There were always those that liked to make others out to be evil so they could be on the side of righteousness. They would slander and spread rumors about others. It was as if they couldn't display their full strength if they didn't do this. It was obvious Naduo was this kind of person, and most of the Guiyi sect was also like this. At the same time, the hundreds of Guiyi sect cultivators sat down without hesitation, and their divine senses flew into the sky. The divine senses were invisible, but they caused the sky to distort. The divine senses entered the vortex and appeared inside the water formation. Hundreds of divine senses entered and used their full power on the ball of water. They began to squeeze the ball of water like crazy. In particular, Naduo's power increased greatly after putting on the armor. The old man in the black robe and the other 3 also erupted their full cultivation. As the water condensed rapidly, it rumbled and shrank down to 30,000 feet. Wang Lin was inside and his eyes were filled with excitement as he comprehended the changes in the water essence. The Guiyi sect going all out and causing the water essence to change rapidly allowed Wang Lin to see almost all of it. I somewhat understand just a bit more. Wang Lin's hands subconsciously formed seals to imitate the changes in the water essence. Just at this moment, the second wave of pressure squeezed down on the ball of water, causing it to rapidly shrink from 30,000 feet to 20,000 feet, 10,000 feet, 5,000 feet, until it was only 2,000 feet. It was still shrinking. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with enlightenment. His left hand was still subconsciously imitating, while his right hand waved at the void. The drop of water essence he had obtained from the All-Seer appeared in his hand. I understand. Wang Lin suddenly raised his head and the drop of water essence in his hand shined brightly. It began to rotate, and as the crystal light shined, the drop of water looked like a crystal. Wang Lin's eyes shined brightly as he spoke softly, water essence, 380 million changes to condense. The moment he said this, the 2,000-foot ball of water violently trembled like never before as if it was going to collapse. The powerful aura of the water essence erupted. At the same time, outside the ball of water, the water general formed a seal and, along with Naduo and rest of the Guiyi sect cultivators, gathered their divine senses to squeeze the ball of water one last time. 2,000 feet! His body should have collapsed, Let us crush his origin soul. Condense him into one drop of the universe. The fused divine senses rushed toward the ball of water. However, before the divine senses could do anything, the ball of water shrank rapidly by itself, startling everyone. This startled Na Duo and caused the water general to tremble. Everyone was completely stunned. The 2,000-foot ball of water shrank down to 500 feet, and then instantly down to 50 feet. This clearly revealed Wang Lin and his excited expression. This scene was like a thunderous rumble that exploded in their minds, causing their minds to turn blank. Forget them, even if it was someone else, they wouldn't be able to accept this. They watched the 50-foot ball of water condense into the crystal in Wang Lin's hand, and then watched the crystal disappear without a trace. They also watched Wang Lin slowly stand up and reveal a smile. He clasped his hands and bowed at everyone who was completely stunned. Such a great favor, please accept my bow. After Wang Lin finished bowing, he waved his sleeve. With this, the world changed colors and the clouds scattered. All the divine senses, including Na Duo-S, were blown out from the formation. Only the Water General and Wang Lin remained inside the formation. The Water General's body trembled as he coughed out blood. He retreated with a miserable smile. On Planet 5 Elements, all the cultivators outside the tower trembled and opened their eyes. Their eyes were filled with horror and disbelief, as well as an endless sense of fear that drowned them. There was no uproar, only a deadly silence. It was as if someone had frozen the Gui Yi sect. How can this be this? How can this be? Na Duo was filled with confusion. He still couldn't believe what he had just witnessed. He took away the earth spirit and caused the fire spirit to worship him. He even took away the drop of the universe formed by the water essence he. After a long time, the cultivators here seemed to awaken from the terror. An uproar suddenly echoed. Everyone exclaimed in shock without exception. How did he do it? This simply too unimaginable. It's impossible. Could it be that he was comprehending inside the water? What kind of terrifying comprehension and cunning did that require? The black-robed old man and the middle-aged woman could not understand this drastic change. In particular, the black-robed old man couldn't say a word, and his eyes were filled with monstrous fear. The last 2 days of the month are upon us. Wishing for the like button for the VIDEO. Right now it's about doubling the likes for the VIDEO. Very grateful and will return the favor. Chapter The Second Devil. TLC PD. Wang Lin had no plans on disposing these tiny creatures. Instead, he wanted to force them apart. As expected, under the impact of the storm of flying swords, the small beasts began yet again to spread out. Wang Lin saw his chance, immediately flashed and rushed through the gap between the small beasts, moving towards the Black Pagoda. Once outside of the Black Pagoda, Wang Lin halted. All those several hundred flying swords turned mid-air and returned back into his storage bag. At the same time, he called back the devil. The devil, who was joyfully swallowing the small beast's divine consciousnesses, basically ignored Wang Lin's summons. The G-realm divine consciousness flashed out of Wang Lin's eyes with a cold snort. As the voice fell onto the ears of the devil, his body immediately began to shiver, and he did not dare to gobble any further. He immediately condensed his body, turning into a black smoke, and went into the pagoda along with Wang Lin. Floating beside Wang Lin, he felt aggrieved as he saw the divine consciousnesses of the small beasts outside disperse and return back to their respective bodies. It could not understand what part of this fiend's brain was broken, as to let so many enemies roam freely and unharmed, but instead told him to return. Wang Lin's eyes had a solemn expression, as he stood on the top floor in the Black Pagoda staring at those small beasts. There was a reason why he didn't let the devil continue to feast upon them. Recently, Wang Lin had thought about it. These small beasts, with their numbers and tendency of assembling together, would form into hurricanes. What this earth domain didn't lack was exactly just such hurricanes. Evidently, the quantity of these small beasts was unfathomable. These small beasts would attack with both sonic waves and divine consciousness simultaneously. Compared to that, their bodies appeared to be very fragile. Thus, if the quantity of these small beasts was not this excessive, then it seems that they would be quite easy to eradicate, especially with Hunchback Meng's poison smoke technique. It would have been really easy. However, Wang Lin couldn't forget the scene that he had witnessed on the top floor of the Black Pagoda a few days ago. An endless amount of black hurricanes were all rapidly rushing together in one direction. This kind of behavior was with intent, as it can be seen that these small beasts actually have a distinctive way of calling. Once they are excessively slaughtered, they would immediately cry for their companions. And if one was caught in this cycle, then they could only wait for their death through these endless hurricanes. At the same time, due to the massive amount of slaughter in such a short duration, it was possible that those hurricanes which would have likely been attracted towards Hunchback Meng had been called back. In this way, it wasn't Hunchback Meng who helped him clear the way, rather he was helping Hunchback Meng by obstructing these hurricanes. In the fight just now, roughly about 200 small beast divine consciousnesses were destroyed by the Wang Lin and Devil. Wang Lin's eyes glinted as he stared at the small beasts outside. Gradually, these small beasts once again came together and formed a hurricane, seemingly moving towards the black pagoda that Wang Lin was occupying. And after turning a few laps around the building, not only did it no longer pay any attention, but also shifted around and started moving in another direction. After the hurricane had left, Wang Lin was relieved, but still couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. This earth domain was very strange, and made no sense, regardless of who they were, as long as one was surrounded by these small beasts and witnessed their attack, which combined sonic waves and divine consciousness. Along with knowing that they had fragile bodies, perhaps the first idea that would arise in their mind would be to quickly exterminate all of them in order to prevent them from attracting another myriad of beasts. In doing so, as long as one exterminates to a certain degree, even if one single small beast began to summon its companions, then unless one has a cultivation that truly goes against the heavens, they were destined to face their downfall. Inside the black pagoda, Wang Lin was sitting cross-legged in meditation, calmly taking a little breather. He stared at the dense mass of hurricanes in the distance, which was still continuing to move towards a particular direction. He remained reserved, not anxious to get out, and instead stayed inside the black pagoda. He glanced sideways at the Devil. His face was looking quite sullen as he helplessly watched the hurricane outside the pagoda gradually fly far away, and his eyes showed signs of regret. Wang Lin did not explain, and coldly said, "I don't care how many you managed to swallow, give me half of them." The Devil pondered over it for a long time, thinking that, what if he would rush out of this building? Would this fiend chase him down or not? This caused him to be hesitant for a while. Finally, the Devil carefully glanced at Wang Lin and noticed the hostile look in his eyes. Immediately, his whole body shivered and it hastily spit out the divine consciousnesses of the small beasts. After having spat about 20, he hastily put on a frail look, while he complacently said to himself, "No matter what you are capable of, you still have to eat what I spit out. Do it if you dare." Naturally, Wang Lin did not know about these thoughts that were going on inside the heart of the Devil, but on his face there was a self-satisfied expression, and thus one could roughly guess it. But regarding this kind of a thing, Wang Lin was too lazy to care about it. Right now, all he was concerned about was the 20 small beast divine consciousnesses that were floating about in front of him. After observing a little, Wang Lin's eyes flashed and single-handedly grabbed all the 20 divine consciousnesses as he went up the black pagoda. After reaching the middle of the pagoda, he observed the place to ensure that the size of the place was suitable, and immediately dispersed his G-realm divine consciousness and wrapped it around the small beast's divine consciousnesses. The Devil had been following behind Wang Lin, with a self-satisfied look on his face, wanting to see for himself how Wang Lin would consume the drool-covered souls. Suddenly, he found the whole place surrounded by an anti-divine consciousness shroud. A red lightning flashed non-stop from every corner. This made him suffer so much pain that he could not bear it anymore. His whole body immediately became weak and listless, and said to himself, it's over, that fiend wants to eradicate me." He was so afraid that he was about to ask for mercy when he saw that Wang Lin wasn't looking at him, but instead was looking at the 20 small beast's divine consciousnesses. Therefore, he swallowed down the words of mercy which he was about to say and praised his good luck from the bottom of his heart. Wang Lin was observing these small beast's souls. These small beast's divine consciousnesses were all at the early Jidan stage. You couldn't say they were powerful, but neither could one say they were weak. If it hadn't been for him fostering the Devil to have a trace of characteristics of a spirit, then he was afraid that it wouldn't have been so easy to swallow them. Moreover, his current level of cultivation was almost equivalent to these divine consciousnesses that he was observing. It was because of the success of creating the devil that an idea emerged in Wang Lin's mind to make another devil. He realized that his own biggest flaw was that he didn't have many magic weapons, nor did he have a great variety of them. Up till now, he only had flying swords. As for the others, they were all low-level magic weapons and were of not much use. Apart from the flying sword, he only had the devil. It had a lot of usefulness. For example, a moment ago, if he hadn't thrown out the devil to deal with the divine consciousnesses, then Wang Lin would have had to waste a considerable amount of time. Aside from these two, there was also the dragon's tendons, and that scroll painting, but unfortunately that aura inside the scroll painting was extremely strange. Wang Lin did not intend to use it before he could completely understand it. The main point in raising the devil, regarding the attributes of its soul, was because it itself had an inherent yuan-yin potential, and it was somewhat similar to a wandering spirit. Therefore, under Wang Lin's forceful training, it finally gained the characteristics of a wandering spirit. But if compared to a real wandering spirit that is able to become a calamity for the spiritual world, then there was a lot of difference. If it were a wandering spirit, then disregarding any cultivation, it only needed to rush forward and it would swallow the soul, while at the same time absorbing the flesh, blood, and other vital parts of the body. Only if it runs across someone with a mighty divine power can it be annihilated. Otherwise, its natural enemy was only a soul devourer. However, the devil created with Shu Li Guo could only engulf someone of the same level, and if it encountered someone with a higher level, like someone at Yuan-Yin stage and tries to forcefully swallow, then the devouring process could fail at any point of time. TL note. For those confused, Shu Li Guo is the name of the person from whose soul the first devil was created. Wang Lin started to regard these small beast-s souls highly because of their ability to fuse. This was the first time he had seen so many individual souls actually fuse together and form a single massive divine consciousness. This peculiarity was what had caused the idea of making another devil to rise in Wang Lin's mind. Wang Lin, after pondering a bit, patted his storage bag. Several soul flags flew out and began floating on both sides of his body. Within these soul flags, numerous souls were sealed. Majority of them were devil cultivators, while a part of it were the souls of creatures from the sea of devils. As he slashed with his right hand, immediately, a spiritual force cage appeared, trapping 19 of the small beast's souls, leaving behind only one floating alone in the air, completely motionless. Wang Lin's eyes flashed. Stretching his hand towards a soul flag on the side, he took out a soul, and after branding it with his divine consciousness, threw it out. Unfortunately, just like Shu Li Guo in the beginning, the small beast soul didn't know how to swallow at all, and instead looked around seemingly at a loss. However, Wang Lin was not in a hurry, and with the experience of already having raised one devil, he knew that for a normal soul to obtain the characteristics of a wandering spirit, time was required. However, he needed to give it a nudge at this first step. Red lightning flashed from Wang Lin's eyes, and the G-Realm divine consciousness, immediately turning into a red net, appeared around the small beast and started to slowly contract. Under this pressure, the small beast's divine consciousness immediately flew towards the interior. Seeing the red net getting closer and closer, it paused slightly. It was left with no other option but to fly towards that soul, and gradually it got more and more closer. Wang Lin closely watched with concentration, when suddenly he saw the small beast's divine consciousness accelerate all of a sudden, and went on to ram into the soul. It did not swallow it, but instead began fusing with it. Wang Lin could clearly feel that the small beast's divine consciousness had grown stronger. He was quite astonished. He had thought that it would take a lot of effort to make another devil. After all, Shu Li Guo had also started in a state similar to this, but he did not expect that after just slightly compelling, the small beast would immediately begin fusing voluntarily. Although it did not swallow, but the effect would be the same. Wang Lin, without any hesitation, retracted the red net, and pulling out another soul, threw it out after branding it with his divine consciousness. This time Wang Lin didn't need to compel, as the small beast's divine consciousness immediately closed in and began fusing. As a result, Wang Lin's interest was thoroughly aroused. His eyes flashed, while he pointed towards the soul flags with both of his hands, which resulted in dozens of souls flying out. After branding them with his divine consciousness one by one, he threw them out towards the small beast's divine consciousness. At this instant, the small beast's divine consciousness suddenly moved, and struck all the souls at an extremely high speed. After bumping into one, it would fuse with it immediately, then move on to strike the next one. In less than the time it takes for one incense stick to burn, the dozen or so souls were completely fused. At this moment, the small beast's divine consciousness had been greatly strengthened. Unexpectedly, it began to show signs of breaking through the early Jidan stage and entering the mid-Jidan stage. Wang Lin's interest grew even more. As he grasped the soul flag with his right hand and shook it, the remaining 100 souls flew out of it. Grabbing them one by one and branding them with his divine consciousness, he threw them all towards the small beast's divine consciousness. The small beast's divine consciousness immediately let out a fierce howl. This was the first time it had made a sound inside the pagoda. Immediately the howling turned into ripples and spread towards the surroundings. Wang Lin's face lit up and his eyes flashed incessantly. He knew that he had picked up a treasure. This small beast's divine consciousness, for some unknown reason, seemed naturally suited to become a devil. He practically did not have to push, as it voluntarily fused with the souls. Besides that, what surprised Wang Lin was the sonic waves that could only be emitted with a physical body. He didn't imagine that the divine consciousness could also release it. Moreover, he noticed that this sonic wave sent out by the divine consciousness apparently seemed to exclusively target souls. After the sonic wave appeared, the souls in the surroundings all had their speed slowed down and unexpectedly began showing signs of collapsing, one by one. At this time, the small beast's divine consciousness flashed out like lightning, and in less than it takes for half an incense stick to burn, gobbled up all the 100 souls thoroughly. Immediately after that, all the souls with a pang sound turned into a cloud of red mist, spreading approximately 10 feet, slowly quieting down. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he waved the soul flag. Immediately, the leftover 19 small beast's divine consciousnesses were sucked into the soul flag. After depositing it in the storage bag, Wang Lin intently stared at the red fog. He could feel that the traces of divine consciousness that he had left on the souls had been fused by this small beast little by little into its own divine consciousness. The devil on the side was looking dumbfounded at the scene in front of him, as he said darkly to himself, "Relentless. This younger brother is too brutal. This one do, I will have to work hard, otherwise that fiend would likely feed me to this younger brother." The devil was in shock as he immediately stepped back, and without hesitation sat down cross-legged while floating mid-air, and began to quickly digest the accumulated souls in his body. This period lasted for 3 days. During these 3 days, the red fog remained unchanged. Wang Lin, aside from observing the red fog, would also look at the numerous hurricanes from the window. As they howled all around, there was a hurricane amongst them that had a diameter of approximately 10,000 feet, and appeared like an overlord of the hurricanes as it moved from one pagoda to another. That giant hurricane traveled back and forth for a moment, then faintly paused. Wang Lin immediately realized that the target of those innumerable divine consciousnesses who had come whistling and screaming was not him, but the red fog in the pagoda. However, the moment these divine consciousness would bump into the black pagoda, they would be bounced back. That majestic-like hurricane remained silently outside the pagoda for a bit, then slowly left. Wang Lin clearly realized that the moment that Hurricane's divine consciousness arrived, there appeared bursts of fluctuations in the red fog. Regarding this, Wang Lin was secretly astonished whilst he continued to observe carefully. Gradually, more and more hurricanes appeared. The target of all these hurricanes was in one direction. Wang Lin sneered inwardly, as he did not need to guess to know that in that direction, Hunchback Meng was located. Hunchback Meng's face paled, and became tense, in fact, as soon as killing the first wave of small beasts, when immediately surrounded by a second wave of beasts which were 10 times more. He had realized his own error. He had acted in accordance to his previous experience with the glacial world, where there were also creatures, but they were a lot in quantity, and required them to be killed immediately after encountering. Otherwise they would certainly draw out more. However, this damned Earth domain was unexpectedly the opposite, and this had made the Hunchback Meng smile bitterly. But things had already reached such a stage that even if he no longer killed, these small beasts would still pester him, constantly attack with their divine consciousness and sonic attacks. Eventually, Hunchback Meng's devil nature was aroused, and unshackling himself in accordance to his nature, he threw out a large poisonous fog. In this way, the small beasts came more and more frequently, So much that even if he went in hiding inside a black pagoda, the small beast outside not only did not decrease, but instead increased more and more, until the point where his blood started to freeze out of fear. Now he was just standing inside the black pagoda, staring outside at the sight of the endless hurricanes. After almost every hour, the quantity of the small beasts would increase. He had also tried to use the black pagoda as a stronghold by trying to send his poison out through the window. But these black pagodas had a strong restriction in place, which prevents the small beast from attacking from outside, while at the same time prevents people from attacking the outside from within. However, if he was to go outside the black pagoda, Hunchback Meng was no longer sure of himself. He believed that as long as he takes even one step, then what would be lying in wait for him was no doubts 100 million or even 1 billion of small beasts, who in all probability were likely to attack with their sonic attacks and divine consciousness together. Even if he was at spirit-forming stage, who could, with a stomp of his feet, could make about 10 million cultivators in the sea of devils tremble with fear. This time, he had no way of resisting the divine consciousness and sonic attacks of the hundreds of millions of small beasts. He was silent for a long time, as he caressed the toad on his shoulder. His face showed a trace of viciousness. Without saying anything more to it, this toad immediately dropped down from his shoulder, and lying prone on the ground made gurgling noises. Hunchback Meng could feel his heart aching looking at the toad, and sighing again, he once again took back the toad. After pondering a little, he took out from his storage bag a 100-feet-long red python. On this python's head there emerged a horn, and just as it appeared it immediately sent out fiery bursts of QI. If the mythical heavenly toad were to be sent in its place, then this old man wouldn't have to suffer any injuries. As a result, this toad would certainly die. Alas, this red python is of the middle-grade peak spiritual level, and although it can be used instead, afraid that this old man would certainly get hurt. Hunchback Meng muttered, then slashed his thumb at the middle, and immediately a drop of blood flew out, as several weird pronunciations came out of his mouth. The color of that drop of blood immediately faded, and finally it became milky color as it quickly flew onto the huge python's head. Hunchback Meng's face looked full of concentration, as his hands moved in accordance to the technique, and as he slowly pressed his own forehead, after raising his hand, a trace of bright silk thread was pulled out from his forehead, and was slowly imprinted onto the milky white spot on the huge python's head. After a long time, Hunchback Meng took a deep breath, and slowly standing up, he threw the python onto the ground. The python immediately upon landing on the ground, coiled up, and continued to lay there motionless. A vicious look flashed on Hunchback Meng's face, and without hesitation he took a step outside the pagoda. The moment he stepped out, the roaring of the hurricanes outside was immediately enhanced by several times. All the small beasts within the hurricanes condensed their divine consciousness together, and turning into series of lightnings, madly vented about. At this point the heaven and earth had become discolored. Although the earth domain's sky had restrictions, it did not stop from swaying and issuing loud rumblings of thunder. Wang Lin was by no means near that place, but he could still feel bursts of the immense pressure. He opened his eyes for meditation, and facing towards Hunchback Meng's direction. At the same time, changes began emerging in the red fog once again. Wang Lin, retracting his vision, immediately began staring fixedly at the red fog. As he stretched forth his right hand slightly, a lump of blue flames emerged from the center of his palm. If the devil inside this red fog were to free itself from his control, then Wang Lin intended to use this icy flame to thoroughly and completely destroy it. If it becomes possible to control, then handling it would naturally be easy. That majestic divine consciousness attacked in an instant. Hunchback Meng didn't try to dodge, he just lightly flung both of his sleeves. And immediately a large number of black clouds came out from his sleeves. These dark clouds immediately started spreading out the moment they appeared. Every small beast that they touched would immediately fall from the hurricane, and with its entire body spasming would turn into black smoke, which in turn would rise and become part of the black clouds. At the same time, that disastrous and majestical divine consciousness's attacks approached. Hunchback Meng groaned lightly as his entire body gradually turned illusory, eventually turning into a 10-foot-long horned python as it rolled in the midair. Its body immediately became rigid and was shattered by the following sonic attack. It vanished in an instant along with its inner Dan. Inside the black pagoda, that python from earlier had in this short while turned illusory and eventually transformed into Hunchback Meng, whose face was pale as he spouted blood. His face showed a bloodthirsty smile as he muttered, "This old man's heaven-destroying poison had a reputation in the Sea of Devils as the #1 poison. I have let it all out completely, and I do not believe that it would fall short of destroying your entire race." He was linked to his black clouds outside the Black Pagoda, and each and every hurricane that it would hit would collapse immediately, turning the small beasts into smoke and becoming a part of the black cloud. As a result, this black cloud grew bigger and bigger, and the rate of its spread began unfolding crazy fast. Meanwhile, Wang Lin, with a look of concentration on his face, was tightly staring at the red fog, as the fluctuations within the red fog became more and more intensive. Slowly and gradually the red fog began to shrink. Wang Lin didn't blink an eye, as the ice flame in his hands issued the sound of flame bursting. At the same time, red light flickered in his eyes, as he set up an exceedingly strong and stable G-realm divine consciousness restriction all around. Even the meditating devil became aware of the abnormalities, and after coming to its senses it looked around. And feeling very happy in his heart, said inwardly, "It seems that this little friend will not be so easy to subdue. It would be best if you both fight until both sides are suffering, and when the time comes, I will swallow you both. Ha ha! What a great idea." The more he thought, the more excited he became, as his eyes flashed incessantly. This devil Shuli Guo, although he had recovered some memory, but it was only just a glimmer of it, and the remaining memory had evaporated the moment he was turned into a devil, and at this point, he was no longer regarding himself as a cultivator. Instead, it downright regarded himself as a devil. Time passed slowly, as that red fog became increasingly smaller, until finally it stopped. The red fog condensed into a red ball which was emitting red light. Only a caca sound could be heard, before the red ball suddenly shattered and a ray of crimson-red gas suddenly spread. The moment this gas appeared, it immediately formed a small beast's head and a long, sharp mouth, emitting a dense, breathtaking aura. It had just started to change form when it suddenly vanished. Wang Lin was startled, but his eyes remained calm and stayed composed. As he continued to stare at the same empty space while his G-realm divine consciousness flashed out like lightning, the altered devil's head suddenly appeared in the place Wang Lin had hoped it would. Its eyes revealed a sight of panic, while its body vanished again. For the first time, his G-realm divine consciousness had ended up empty-handed. From this, it can be seen that this altered devil had a very fast speed. Wang Lin looked as usual, and his eyes showed no sign of panic, but on the contrary, it had calmness, letting out cold light. His G-realm divine consciousness fiercely flashed out from behind him. Immediately a miserable cry could be heard, as the altered devil just appeared and had directly bumped into the divine consciousness, unable to dodge it. The G-realm divine consciousness immediately pierced through its entire body. The body, floating involuntarily, slowly arrived in front of Wang Lin. Its eyes revealed an expression of horror as it let out sounds of whimpering. The devil Shuli Guo took a deep breath, as he quickly put away the rebellious thoughts in his mind. He did not expect that this fiend would so easily be able to defeat this little friend. After pondering a bit, he could vaguely guess the answer as he cursed in his heart, "Despicable!" The end of the month is here. Wishing for the like button for the VIDEO. Brothers, do you still have likes for the VIDEO? Wang Lin ignored the retreating water general, who was filled with disbelief. He closed his eyes and slowly felt the drop of the universe he had obtained. This 8th essence was the water essence, but it wasn't complete inside Wang Lin. Just like the fire essence, it needed to be fused many times to reach completion. This was the difference between ethereal and corporeal essences. Ethereal essences only needed to be comprehended to become complete. However, this comprehension was much more difficult. This could be seen from Wang Lin's life and death karma and true and false essences. In contrast, corporeal essences were easier in comparison. Wang Lin's fire and thunder essences only required a seed, then he just had to strengthen it until essence appeared. Right now, what was inside Wang Lin was the seed of the water essence. With this essence, Wang Lin could slowly make it reach completion. Essences were difficult to complete, and creating the seed was even harder. If Wang Lin hadn't devoured the ancient thunder dragon and the eternal thunder from the scattered thunder clan, the thunder seed 1T had appeared. The fire essence was the same. If he hadn't awakened the vermilion bird many times, he wouldn't have obtained the fire seed. Now the drop of the universe was like the ancient thunder dragon and eternal thunder, or even the vermilion bird awakening. It gave Wang Lin the water seed. This was what excited Wang Lin the most. There was nothing free without hard work. Everything had to obtain step by step. As for the earth spirit, Wang Lin had absorbed it from the earth formation, but it was far from enough to form the earth seed. Maybe if there was someone with the earth armor to reveal the earth essence for him to comprehend, then a seed might appear. This kind of thing could only be wished but not forced. Wang Lin understood this well. Feeling the vitality from the water seed, Wang Lin opened his eyes. His gaze toward the water general was no longer cold, but completely calm. The moment Wang Lin opened his eyes, the water general seemed to awaken from his shock. He retreated like crazy, and after 7 or 8 steps, he was about to run. However, he had been so generous to Wang Lin, so how could Wang Lin let him leave like this? Wang Lin's right hand reached forward, and a giant hand appeared from the void. The hand grabbed the retreating water general. As the water general struggled, Wang Lin withdrew his right hand and the giant hand brought the water general back to him. Wang Lin's right index finger stretched out and pointed to the spot between the eyebrows of the water general. The water general's face was distorted with pain and looked like a dried-up lamp. His life force and soul had already fused with the armor around him. He borrowed the power of the armor, and the armor used him as nutrients. This relationship had been maintained for a long time, but now that the water general was weak, the situation was fatal. The armor would suck away the last of his life force. Wang Lin's finger entered and a powerful force rushed out from his body, entering the water general's body. It formed a barrier that completely separated the water general's body and soul from the armor. Since you gifted me the water seed, I won't kill you and I'll save you once. This is my principle. Wang Lin lifted his finger. The armor around the water general trembled and was forcibly removed. The fragments scattered in all directions. There was a line of blood connecting each fragment of the armor to the water general, even though the fragments had scattered far away. The current water general looked very creepy. This terrifying scene caught the attention of all the horrified Guiyi sect cultivators. Watching this strange scene, a chill appeared in their hearts. The water general's armor was taken off. At the same time, waves of miserable screams came from the water general. The pain almost completely drowned him, but he couldn't pass out and could only endure the pain. However, he also knew that Wang Lin was not torturing him but saving him. If he didn't take off the armor, he would without a doubt die. After all, he had used a lot of power, and in order to kill Wang Lin, he had activated an amount of power he couldn't withstand from the armor. If he had refined Wang Lin, he would have been fine after absorbing that drop of water, but he had ended up in this current state. A large amount of red lines connected the water general and armor fragments. The lines moved with the fragments, and the water general's miserable screams continued to echo. Wang Lin's expression became serious as he stared at the water general. His eyes shined as he began to deduce the armor. After a while, he raised his right hand and the blood sword appeared. It flew forward and cut the red lines connecting the water general and the armor. Popping sounds echoed, and all the lines connecting to the water general shattered and returned to the fragments. The armor had been completely separated from the water general. After scattering, the fragments strangely gathered and reformed the armor, but it had a lot of cracks. It fell to the ground. The armor made it look as if someone was sitting there and emitting dark blue water light. A lance appeared from the blue light and fell into the arms of the armor. After the armor was taken off, the water general coughed out a large amount of blood mist. His body was extremely weak as he staggered back. He looked at Wang Lin with a complicated gaze. Wang Lin looked at the armor and slowly said, "You can go, I won't kill you." The water general pondered a bit and opened his mouth to say something, but in the end, he said nothing. He was exhausted as he took a step backward and disappeared from the water formation. Wang Lin's right hand reached toward the armor to take it to study when he suddenly looked up. There was a flash of coldness in his eyes. He stepped forward without hesitation, and at the same time ripples came from the water formation. Powerful pressure came from the ripples, and the world suddenly collapsed. This collapse was too sudden. When the water formation collapsed, a powerful pressure descended. This pressure was too strong, as if this area couldn't withstand it. Ripples echoed behind the armor and a vortex appeared. A dried-up arm came from the vortex and reached for the armor. At the same time, a grim and old voice came from the vortex, and this sound went directly toward Wang Lin's mind. This is not something you can possess, scram for this old man. Wang Lin wasn't caught completely unaware of the sudden change. The step he had taken before the water formation collapsed allowed him to reach top speed in an instant. His 7 essences suddenly merged into his powerful late-stage spirit void cultivation and erupted from his body. The moment his step landed, Wang Lin's ancient Tao power entered every inch of his flesh and bones. This allowed his body to crush a cultivation planet. Wang Lin's full power erupted in full. It was like a storm of destruction had appeared. Wang Lin's momentum was on full swing. His step landed the moment the vortex appeared and the arm came out. He did not land in the void but on the arm. And he mercilessly stomped. All of this happened in an instant, too fast for anyone to retreat. Wang Lin's right foot moved like lightning, containing the power of the ancient Tao as it descended. The old voice exclaimed and the arm rapidly changed directions. His arm tried to form a spell to defend, but he obviously didn't expect Wang Lin to react so fast and be so vicious. Wang Lin's right hand mercilessly landed on his arm. With a bang, there was also the sound of bone shattering mixed in. The arm became twisted and swelled up. The arm quickly retracted into the vortex, but it exploding and blood splattered everywhere. You dare to steal something from me? Are you tired of living? Wang Lin stood behind the armor, and his gaze was as cold as ice as he looked at the vortex. He casually waved his left hand, and the water blue armor and lance were taken by Wang Lin. Everything that had happened was done in one smooth motion, from taking the step to breaking the arm and taking the armor. He gave off the aura of a master of the generation. Cultivator of the ancient country. You a member of the ancient clan. A nearly distorted voice filled with pain came from the vortex. This scene was seen by Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo outside the planet. He revealed a proud smile and a tyrannical expression. Good, indeed a child of my ancient Tao clan. This is the best way to deal with people who dare to offend the ancient Tao. If he did less, I would be somewhat dissatisfied. This is very similar to my temper. If it was me, I would have cut his claws off. Gui sect. The group of celestials that came here is interesting. Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo casually looked at the tower. If he wanted, he could wave his hand and all life on the planet would disappear. The end of the month, wishing for the like button for the VIDEO. Don't hold back, it's expiring. Putting away the Water General's armor, Wang Lin's eyes were cold like ice. He looked at the vortex and his hand reached toward it. At the same time, bright golden light came from the vortex like sharp swords. It collided with Wang Lin's right hand. Thunderous rumbles echoed across the water formation. Wang Lin retreated 3 steps and withdrew his right hand. His expression didn't change at all, it was still extremely cold. The vortex collapsed under the impact and exploded into specks of crystals. It disappeared without a trace. On Planet 5 Elements, the 9th floor of the tower was giving off a golden glow. Inside sat an old man wearing a golden shirt with lifelike patterns embroidered on it. At this moment, the old man trembled and coughed out blood. His right hand was bruised and dark. It was also at a weird angle and was obviously broken. Large amounts of blood flowed out from his right arm and dripped on the ground. A member of the ancient clan, the power of his body belongs to the ancient Tao clan. He doesn't seem to be a descendant created from Yemo's 3,000 drops of blood. Yemo's descendant couldn't be as strong as him. This person is likely not someone from the cave. He came from the immortal astral continent. Damn it, someone else is here besides my Gui sect. The old man's pupils shrank and his eyes were filled with pain. He looked at his right hand with horror and pain in his eyes. What a vicious step. If not for the armor, my arm would have shattered and even my body would have exploded. The old man's face was extremely gloomy as he faced the outside of the tower and roared, "Na duo, come and see me?" When the old man's voice came out of the 9th floor of the tower, the hearts of all the cultivators outside the tower trembled. All the uproar stopped and they knelt toward the tower. Naduo's eyes twitched, and he jumped toward the 9th floor without hesitation. He stopped outside and was about to speak when a giant hand grabbed him and pulled him in. Nadao didn't dare to resist, allowing the giant hand to drag him into the tower. After he entered, he immediately knelt on the ground and spoke respectfully. Junior Naduo greets 9th ancestor. The old man in the golden robe looked at Naduo and roared, "Who is he? How did you provoke such a person?" Hearing the old man's words, Na Duo raised his head to speak, but when he saw the blood the old man had coughed out, his heart trembled. Then he saw the old man's right arm, and a monstrous wave was set off in his heart. He knew the ancestor had acted, but not only had the ancestor not gained the advantage, he had been injured by Wang Lin. His body trembled and he quickly spilled everything he knew without hiding anything. As Na Duo spoke, inside the 5-element formation the water formation collapsed. Wang Lin could have left, but he chose not to. He stepped forward and there was a dazzling glow as a new world appeared before him. The gentle wind blew by. The fragrance that the breeze brought would make anyone feel calm. It was a dense jungle here with no end in sight. The towering trees were like swords that pierced the clouds, and the leaves formed patches of shade. 5-element wood formation. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he looked around, and he gradually smiled. On this trip to Planet 5 Elements, ignoring the main objective, just this 5 elements formation had given Wang Lin a great fortune. How could Wang Lin let the wood formation go? He charged forward. However, as soon as Wang Lin moved, all the trees in the jungle trembled. All the leaves fell off due to some mysterious force and flew toward Wang Lin. There were too many leaves, enough to cover the sky and earth. They were locked on to Wang Lin as if they were trying to take his soul away. Wang Lin's expression didn't change at all as he retreated 3 steps. His right hand formed a fist and coldness appeared in his eyes. He suddenly clawed at the space before him. Heaven ripping. This tear caused the clouds to scatter. Then a loud tearing sound echoed. A giant rift was torn open in the world, and it connected the sky and earth. It felt like it was going to tear the world in half. In truth, the world before Wang Lin was split in half. The center of the rift led into the dark void. At this moment, it rapidly expanded, as if the night was devouring the day. But just this wasn't enough to display the power of heaven ripping. The countless leaves were all torn along with the world. All the leaves split in half, revealing the lines that connected the 2 sides of each leaf. All the leaves coming from all directions were ripped apart like this. When the heaven ripping came from Wang Lin's right hand, a thunderous rumble echoed as if the wood formation was going to collapse. All the leaves closing in on Wang Lin split in half and moved by his sides, colliding with the leaves coming from the opposite direction. From afar, Wang Lin's figure looked to be drowned by the collision of the leaves. A moment later, Wang Lin walked out of the darkness. Behind him, the rift grew bigger like a large mouth. The collapsed leaves created a mass of chaos. It was like the end of the world. Just as Wang Lin walked out, the trees that had lost all their leaves began to move strangely. Under Wang Lin's gaze, the trees all began to extend and intersect with each other. Soon, the trees extended and grew to form a giant face. Surrender or be destroyed. Wang Lin's white hair gently fluttered behind him, along with his white robe. He stared at the face of the tree on the ground. The face in the forest silently pondered, and after a long time it slowly closed its ancient eyes. At this moment, bright green light gathered between its eyebrows. It formed a green crystal that shot toward Wang Lin. It floated before Wang Lin, and he picked it up with his right hand. When he put it away, all the trees moved back to their original positions. Wang Lin no longer looked down but stepped forward, and the world around him distorted until it all collapsed. The wood formation rapidly dissipated, and the last formation appeared, the metal formation. The metal formation was filled with the power of metal, and the smell of killing intent was dense in the metal world. There was no earth here. Instead, there were large swords filled with the power of metal and killing intent. There were no clouds or sun in the sky, only endless swords hanging upside down in the air. Those countless swords buzzed the moment Wang Lin appeared. This was a sword hymn. All the swords hymned at the same time. Metal was no wood. Wood could be soft, which was why Wang Lin had given the wood spirit that had gained intelligence a chance to choose. Metal was different. Metal would always be straight and never yield. At this moment, the sword hymn echoed and all the swords shot out. The millions of swords all flew toward Wang Lin. Thunderous rumbles echoed and the violent sounds became the only sounds that existed, and they lingered for a long time. On Planet 5 Elements, in the 9th floor of the tower, after Na Duo had spoken of everything he knew about Wang Lin, the old man was still gloomy. He still didn't believe that Wang Lin was not someone from the immortal astral continent. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly looked outside the tower. His expression was filled with killing intent. He has broken the metal formation. He is going to enter the 9 cycles. The old man in the golden robe stood up. His eyes were filled with coldness and killing intent. Naduo hesitated and asked, Ancestor, can our planet 5 elements most powerful 9-cycle heartwheel formation stop this person? The 9-cycle heartwheel, 9 breaths for 1 cycle. The faster one's heart moves, the faster it turns. It is difficult to say. This formation can be difficult and can be simple. It is one of the protection formations of the Guiyi sect on the immortal astral continent. Although this formation only has 40% of its power, as long as he can see through the formation and it rotates even a bit, he won't be able to break through. Everything will depend on whether his heart moves or not, the ancestor muttered, but his words were too mysterious. Naduo listened but didn't understand much, but he didn't ask more. Instead, he looked into the sky outside the tower. Inside the formation, thunderous rumble echoed, and the metal formation collapsed. Wang Lin walked out from inside. He could now see Planet 5 elements not far away. It seemed as if he only needed to take 1 step to enter Planet 5 elements. Behind Wang Lin was the 5 elements formation that was disintegrating. Staring at Planet 5 elements he was about to enter, but he suddenly stopped. He exclaimed softly and his eyes lit up. In his view, the planet had actually moved. It began to slowly rotate. A grand chapter. Not caring to read 4,500 words, can T bear to split it into 2 chapters. As the donkey dies a martyr, tears flow, wishing for the like button for the video. The moment Wang Lin saw the planet rotate on the 9th floor of the tower, the gloominess on the old man in the gold robe's face disappeared and was replaced with a smile. 9-cycle heartwheel. Even on the immortal astral continent, very few people can break it. The focus of this formation is the heart. The faster one's heart moves, the more difficult it becomes to break. You said that this person was very cunning and very intelligent. It has been many years, and not only did he not die, but his cultivation level has increased greatly. He must have experienced many life and death situations, and his mind has been honed to be like that of a demon. The smarter the person, the more difficult it is for them to break free. This is only the first cycle. The later it becomes, the more killing potential it has. Once it reaches 9 cycles, he will be trapped there for life until his mental energy has been exhausted, and he dies. When Nadu heard this, he smiled. He clasped his hands at the old man and said, With the ancestor here, this person cannot escape. The old man in the golden robe laughed and looked at this right arm. There was a hint of viciousness in his gaze. Even now, his right arm still felt pain. Even when he used his celestial energy, it wasn't able to alleviate all the pain. Outside the planet, Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo, who had been observing this whole time, narrowed his eyes. This 9-cycle heartwheel's power is average, but it is difficult for those who don't understand it to break it. I fear this child can break out. Forget it. I'll watch for a bit longer. If he is really trapped, I'll save him. Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo gently shook his head. He didn't expect Wang Lin to break the famous Guiyi sect formation, but there was a sliver of expectation in his heart. However, this expectation was very weak. When he noticed this sliver of expectation, he even laughed. I shouldn't expect too much, even if this generation's emperor charged into this formation without any knowledge beforehand, he would be trapped. Wang Lin's expression was serious as he looked at Planet 5 elements. However, the more he looked, the faster it rotated. At the start, it was rotating slowly, but now it was several times faster. As it rotated, Wang Lin felt a stinging pain in his eyes and got a sense of vertigo. In those few breaths, his mental energy was rapidly consumed. This discovery made Wang Lin's heart tremble, and he didn't hesitate to close his eyes. However, even with his eyes closed, his divine sense still saw the planet rotate without pause. What kind of formation is this? Wang Lin's eyes suddenly opened, and his expression was gloomy. Whether he looked or not, his eyes opened or closed, or even if he looked in another direction, the planet was still rotating. Soon, 9 breaths passed, and on the 10th breath, the planet started to rotate even faster. This made Wang Lin feel vertigo even more, and his mental energy began to be exhausted at a rapid rate. Wang Lin had never experienced this kind of thing in his life. He couldn't understand what was happening, what kind of restrictions existed inside this formation. There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. He stepped forward with no hesitation. Even if this planet is strange, it is still not far from me. I'll simply ignore it and enter the planet. Wang Lin moved very fast and crossed an endless distance with one step. However, after this step, Wang Lin's pupils shrank. He found that he had walked in place instead of moving toward the planet. The distance between them hadn't changed, and the planet was still rotating. It was as if the planet had moved as well. Wang Lin silently pondered. At this moment, the second set of 9 breaths passed and the third cycle began. The planet started rotating even faster, becoming blurry in Wang Lin's eyes. What kind of formation is this? So strange. Wang Lin's heart felt irritated as the planet continued to rotate. This irritation didn't come suddenly. It felt like it had always been there. However, the moment this irritation appeared, the rotation of the planet suddenly became faster. This increase in speed caused the planet to become much more blurry. Right now, it looked like the planet had begun a giant cyclone. Wang Lin's face turned slightly pale, and he couldn't suppress the irritation in his heart. It became stronger and stronger, and the rotation of the planet became faster and faster as well. Something isn't right. Wang Lin rapidly retreated. However, no matter how fast he retreated, the distance between him and Planet 5 Elements didn't increase at all. This strange change shocked Wang Lin's heart, and the irritation in his heart became even stronger. At this moment, the fourth set of 9 breaths passed and the planet entered its 5th cycle. The moment it entered the 5th cycle, due to Wang Lin's irritation, Planet 5 Elements no longer looked like a planet. It had completely changed into a circle of vortexes that rotated rapidly. Wang Lin's body trembled and his chest felt stuffy. As the planet rotated, Wang Lin felt like the world was spinning. It was as if the only one not spinning was himself. However, this made Wang Lin feel as if he didn't belong here. It made him feel irritated. The sense of vertigo was painful for Wang Lin, making him want to vomit. He staggered back and his face became deathly pale. His eyes were completely bloodshot. As he stared at the vortex, on top of irritation, madness appeared in his eyes. However, the moment the madness appeared, the speed of the vortex increased greatly. Wang Lin's feet became unstable, and he started rotating along with it without him being aware of it. In the 9th floor of the tower, the old man in the golden robe looked at this and laughed. His eyes were filled with cruelty and joy. He looked outside the tower with contempt and disdain. It has already entered the 5th cycle. He can escape. Even if I went inside, I wouldn't be able to enter after the 5th cycle. He can only have his mind be exhausted by the formation and have all his life force wasted. This person wants to break into my Planet 5 Elements. He is simply too arrogant. Nadua also smiled, but there was still lingering fear in his eyes. He didn't know as much about the 9-cycle heart wheel as the old man, but he had stepped into it himself a long time ago. He was well aware of the terror of this formation. He entered a coma in the 3rd cycle and was saved by the ancestor. It took a long time for him to recover. After that, he only felt awe and fear toward this formation. Outside the planet, Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo gently shook his head and let out a sigh. Still not as good as expected. Even if there is only a little bit of expectation, it can turn into disappointment. It is still rare for him to last 5th cycles. I'll let him experience it a bit more. And when it enters the 9th cycle, I'll act. Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo still felt some disappointment, but he understood that if he had rushed into this famous formation without any knowledge before he became a Grand Empyrean, he would be in a similar state. Wang Lin's face was deathly pale. In the 9th breath of the 9th cycle, he coughed out blood. This was caused by the exhaustion of his mind. His body began to slowly rotate, but he stopped it by force. The veins on his face bulged, and irritation and madness filled his mind. He stared at the vortex that was about to reach the limit of its rotation and stood there motionless. He knew that whether he liked or not, the vortex would still be there. He understood that whether he thought about it or not, the vortex would still be there. He was aware that if his body rotated with the planet, his mind would be pulled inside. Once his mind had been completely exhausted, the only thing awaiting him would be death. Every 9 breaths, the rotation of the planet suddenly increases. Wang Lin endured the vertigo and pain as he forced his mind to calm down to think. 9 breaths for one change. The moment I became irritated, the rotation intensified. The moment the madness appeared, The rotation became faster, the more Wang Lin pondered and thought. The faster the rotation became, making it almost impossible for him to think. He stared at the vortex, and the more he couldn't calm down, the more he thought. He needed to find out the cause for everything to be spinning. Soon, the 6th set of 9's breath passed, the 7th, and the 8th flashed by. In the 9th floor of the tower, the old man laughed as he waved his sleeve. He took Na Duo outside the tower and stood in the sky. The 9th cycle, this person is dead for sure. Na Duo followed this old man to collect his body. The old man in the golden robe laughed and was about to walk forward. However, his laughter suddenly stopped and his eyes became filled with disbelief. It slowed down. The rotation slowed down. Impossible. This is the 9th turn, this. Na Duo was also terrified. He was originally smiling, but that smile quickly turned into fear. Similarly, outside the planet, Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo was shaking his head and suppressing the disappointment in his heart. He was about to wave his right hand, but just as he lifted his hand, he stopped. His eyes shined, and he lowered his right hand. His ancient heart began to beat. Inside the formation, when the first breath of the 9th cycle arrived, Wang Lin suddenly closed his eyes. Heart stirred, my heart was stirred. My heart was stirred, and as a result my body, soul, and everything, including the planet, is moving. All of this is happening because my heart is not calm. The bloodlines in Wang Lin's eyes disappeared, and the madness faded. All irritations disappeared, and his heart was as calm as the water. Big brothers and little sisters, do you still have likes for the video? Wishing for the like button for the video to help. The 9th cycle's first breath. Wang Lin closed his eyes. He tried using the true and false essence, but it had no effect, as if it was gone. Here, where it was true or false, everything depended on his heart. If Wang Lin's heart had been triggered, then everything would move. The moment Wang Lin closed his eyes, he suddenly reopened them. They were as calm as water. He understood that everything was merely a trial for his heart. As long as his heart was calm, the world would be calm. However, it was difficult to calm his heart, especially with all the irritations around him. Although he looked calm now, he hadn't completely calmed down yet. Right now he had only calmed his body. As Wang Lin's body gradually calmed down, the planet before him suddenly slowed down from its rapid vortex state. This change was really obvious, and it was several times slower in an instant. The 9th cycle's second breath. After his body calmed down, the planet's rotation suddenly slowed down. Although the planet was still a vortex, the dizziness, nauseousness, and madness all died down as if cold water had been poured on his heart. This allowed his heart to show signs of completely calming down. As a result, Wang Lin's soul calmed down. With his soul calm, the planet's vortex slowed down by several times. It seemed to stagger between being a planet and a vortex. It seemed almost unable to keep up its vortex-like state that made you dizzy. The 9th cycle's third breath. The moment the third breath passed, after Wang Lin's body and soul calmed down, his origin soul also calmed down. With his origin soul calm, Wang Lin felt like he was floating there with his white hair fluttering. His face was no longer pale and was simply calm. In his view, Planet 5 element's rotation slowed down even more, and it was no longer a vortex. It had returned to the appearance of a planet, and although he still couldn't see the scenery on the planet clearly, he could detect the speed with just his eyes. Looking at Planet 5 elements, Wang Lin slowly smiled. This smile was very peaceful, without any anger. It was as if he had seen through everything. Time went by. The 4th, 5th, and 6th breaths of the 9th cycle passed. At this moment, it was completely silent on Planet 5 elements. All the cultivators looked at the sky with indescribable shock in their eyes. In particular, the old man in the golden robe's face was pale as he murmured something. He still couldn't believe what he was seeing. This was beyond his imagination and expectations. In his mind, this was impossible. He didn't belong to the cave world. He was from the Guiyi sect on the immortal astral continent. He was far too aware of the terror and power of the 9-cycle Heartwheel formation. This formation was famous on the immortal astral continent. He never thought that a cave world cultivator would show signs of breaking the formation in such a short period of time. Although the formation here was much weaker than the one on the immortal astral continent, this was a real 9-cycle Heartwheel formation. This is impossible even if he was able to comprehend the formation, It had already reached the 9th cycle. Time is limited, and it's impossible for his heart to calm down in time during the 9th cycle. The old man in the golden robe clenched his fist and muttered words he wasn't certain about. Beside him, Naduo revealed fear in his eyes as he noticed the change where Wang Lin was. He was far too aware of the strangeness of the formation. He gasped and wasn't able to say a word for a long time. Huge waves set off his head, and he felt an inexplicable fear toward Wang Lin. Outside Planet 5 Elements, Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo's eyes revealed a strange light as he looked at Wang Lin. The light in his eyes grew brighter and brighter. He had seen everything Wang Lin had done, and his heart began beating rapidly. Because he couldn't calm down in an instant, he first calmed his body, using his body as an anchor to calm his soul. Then he used his soul as a guide to calm his origin soul. His origin soul then seized the heart and calmed it down. As a result of the body, soul, and origin soul calming down, the heart would naturally calm down. It's rare for someone to think of such a method in such a short period of time. Such comprehension is rare. I'll take this child as my disciple. Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo revealed excitement rarely shown even in 10,000 years. The 9th cycle 8th breath. Wang Lin's heart completely calmed down at this moment. He stood there with a smile on his face. The rotation of Planet 5 Elements had slowed down to the point where it could hardly be noticed. The planet appeared clearly before Wang Lin. When the 9th breath arrived, Planet 5 Elements no longer rotated at all and completely stopped in Wang Lin's eyes. If he wanted to, he only needed to take one step forward to walk out of the 9-cycle heart wheel and enter the planet, but he didn't do so. Throughout his life, after suffering a loss, he always got his payback. He had nearly died due to his mental energy being drained just now, and if he simply endured it, he wouldn't be Wang Lin. I don't know the name of this formation, but it changes every 9 breaths, and now it has changed a total of 9 times. After each change, it rotates even faster. So it wouldn't be wrong to call it the 9-cycle heart wheel. How can this formation turn and stop as you wish? There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes, and his right hand pointed forward at Planet 5 Elements. Then his hand drew a circle in reverse. If the heart moves, then the planet moves. Since my heart has reversed, then this planet will reverse as well. You all wanted to trap me inside the formation. Now you can all taste how wonderful this formation is. Wang Lin's right hand drew several circles in a row. When his right hand moved, Planet 5 Elements, which had stopped moving, began to rotate again. However, this time it was rotating in reverse. As it rotated in reverse, Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo began to laugh. He was filled with admiration toward Wang Lin. This child fits my temper. Very good, very good. At the same time, opposite of Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo's joy were the cultivators on Planet 5 Elements. They were looking at the sky, but the clouds suddenly scattered, and the sky rapidly changed. The sky was no longer blue or bright. It was instead replaced with the void outside Planet 5 Elements. All the cultivators of the Guiyi sect saw a planet in this void. It was Planet 5 Elements. This feeling was very mysterious. They were clearly on Planet 5 Elements, but they were seeing Planet 5 Elements. This immediately made the hearts of everyone who saw it tremble. The old man in the golden robe also trembled. After being startled, his expression changed greatly. Not good. In an instant, the Planet 5 Elements in their vision began to rotate. As the rumbling echoed, the planet rotated even faster. The heart moves, so the planet moves. The sudden scene caused a disturbance in their hearts, and thus they became trapped in the 9-cycle heart wheel. In their eyes, the planet's rotation had already turned into a vortex, and this was only the 8th breath of the first cycle. One by one, the cultivators coughed out blood and continued to retreat. They were terrified, and screams of panic echoed. The 2nd cycle suddenly arrived. Naduo coughed out blood and immediately closed his eyes. However, the pain and dizziness made it impossible to calm down, so he could only resist. But the more he resisted, the faster the planet rotated in his mind. The fear from back then filled his mind again. This caused Naduo to go crazy from fear. There was also the old man in the golden robe. His face was deathly pale. His right hand immediately pointed to the spot between his eyebrows, trying to force himself to calm down. However, the screams and calls for help disturbed him again and again, making it hard for him to calm down quickly. In his view, Planet 5 Elements rotation had turned into a vortex, and the feeling of vertigo made him feel irritated and crazy. His mental energy was being rapidly consumed and he was losing control. At this moment, the formation reached the fourth cycle. The moment it entered the fourth cycle, all the cultivators besides Na Duo and the old man in the golden robe passed out. Although they had passed out, the pain on their faces was still there and was getting stronger. Their mental energy was being rapidly drained and their bodies rapidly withered. Aside from their mental energy, their life force was also being exhausted. Na Duo was suffering as well. He barely lasted for a moment into the fourth cycle before passing out. Only the old man in the golden robe was still struggling. The veins on his face were swollen, and there was madness in his eyes as he let out a roar. In his eyes, he saw the reflection of Planet 5 Elements. It was rotating so fast that it was only a vortex, and it was impossible to tell that it was actually a planet. Time passed. The fifth and sixth cycles passed. Just as the seventh cycle came, the old man in the golden robe coughed out blood, and his face showed signs of withering. Just at this moment, 3 roars came from the 7th, 6th, and 5th floors of the tower. At the same time, 3 old figures flew out from the tower and used some unknown spell. The 3 of them waved their sleeve at the stars. A thunderous rumble spread across the world and turned into endless echoes that continued to rumble. As the thunderous rumbles echoed, the sky collapsed and the rotating Planet 5 Elements collapsed. Everything in the sky was torn apart by force. Wang Lin's white figure appeared in the sky of Planet 5 Elements when the formation was torn apart. Just in time to keep the manuscript. Tonight's update might not be timely. If there's no second watch tonight, Leo will supplement tomorrow. However, Leo will try his best to finish today. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. The sky distorted as the illusory Planet 5 Elements collapsed. The sky seemed to shatter into fragments that scattered in all directions. If not for the 3 of them, the reverse of the 9-cycle Heartwheel formation would have killed everyone here. It was not Wang Lin being cruel, but he had just experienced the same thing himself. Wang Lin appeared in the distorted sky and calmly looked at the planet. He saw the hundreds of unconscious cultivators, Na Du, the old man with a broken right arm, and 3 gloomy middle-aged men staring at him. Although the 3 men looked middle-aged, their ancient aura showed that they had lived for far too long. Their strange clothes showed that they weren't cultivators from the cave world, but from the immortal astral continent. After Wang Lin's gaze swept by, he remained calm and waved his sleeve. He clasped his hands. I am the cave world's Wang Lin. I came to see you fellow cultivators from the immortal astral continent, and came to greet you all as the landlord. Have you all been living well over these countless years? Wang Lin's words caused the expression of the old man in the golden robe to change greatly. His mind was already injured by the formation, and this shock caused blood to flow out from the corner of his mouth. The expressions of the 3 people that came out didn't change, but their pupils shrank. Their gazes toward Wang Lin became even colder. After Wang Lin spoke, he stepped forward and his right hand formed a fist. His ancient god, ancient demon, and ancient devil stars appeared at the same time, and a huge ancient Tao shadow appeared behind him. The shadow pierced the heavens and completely occupied the sky. It was holding its right hand in a fist, its actions perfectly mimicking Wang Lin's ancient Tao clan. The expression of one of the middle-aged men changed, and the 3 of them charged at Wang Lin. One of them changed into a giant 9-colored dragon that swept across the sky. Another person was covered in black gas that turned into a giant ghost. The ghost was fierce and rushed forward. The last person was covered in the 5 elements. Metal, wood, water, 5, and earth surrounded him, and illusions of the 5 elements shined around him. They condensed around his body, and the world changed colors as he closed in on Wang Lin. Wang Lin's right hand formed a fist and he walked toward the tower. He was about to punch it, but the 3 people closing in stopped him. Wang Lin's expression remained the same, and he wasn't alarmed at all. Since he dared to come here, he had naturally come prepared. Although these 3 weren't weak, Wang Lin didn't care. The moment the 3 of them closed in, Wang Lin waved his left hand. The ancient Tao shadow behind him also waved his left hand. Its huge body twisted and shrouded Wang Lin. Just at this moment, the spells from those three arrived and collided with the ancient Tao shadow protecting Wang Lin. The shadow trembled and was unable to withstand the powerful blows. After several breaths, it suddenly collapsed. The collapse of the ancient Tao shadow created a powerful shockwave that exploded outward. The earth trembled and the three middle-aged men were pushed back several thousand feet before they were able to stop. The ancient Tao shadow had exploded, but Wang Lin wasn't injured at all. All of this was within Wang Lin's plan. The moment the shadow collapsed, Wang Lin stepped forward and appeared on top of the tower. His hand formed a fist and smashed toward the tower. The reason Wang Lin had come to Planet 5 Elements was for this punch. His goal was to force out all the hidden forces in Planet 5 Elements. He wanted to see how strong this second hidden force beside the All-Seer was. He wanted to see how sharp this nail was and how deep it was. Only when he fully understood all of this could he set his plan to find the third soul. He was going to force them out from the shadows. The world seemed to dim as the explosion of the ancient Tao shadow was very large. The powerful shockwave spread out with Wang Lin as the center, preventing everyone here from moving forward. That impact was like a roar that swept away all obstacles before Wang Lin. This allowed his punch to smash down at the tower. The expressions of the three middle-aged men changed. They wanted to charge forward to stop Wang Lin. However, they were stopped by the explosion of the ancient Tao shadow. All of this was part of Wang Lin's plan. His fist rumbled. This punch was filled with his determination and his full cultivation. He was getting closer and closer to the tower. However, just at this moment, a powerful aura came from the fourth floor of this tower. As this aura spread out, a young man wearing black walked out of the fourth floor. This youth looked ordinary, but his eyes revealed a strange light. He was the youth who had walked out of the spatial rift during Wang Lin's divine retribution. This youth was in the summoned river looking for something. But many years ago, he had come back, helpless, and had been in closed-door cultivation in the fourth floor. He was forced out by Wang Lin at this moment. He knew Wang Lin, and Wang Lin had met him. "It's you." The moment the young man appeared, Wang Lin saw him. Wang Lin had only seen this youth once. The youth had been holding an ancient mirror inside the ancient celestial realm above an ancient god statue. He seemed to be looking for something. The youth didn't speak but stepped toward Wang Lin. As Wang Lin's punch descended, the youth pointed forward. The moment he sent out a seal, 6 giant illusory black flowers appeared. The 6 flowers were in full bloom, and as the youth pointed, the flowers shined brightly. An arm came out of each flower, and all 6 arms with pearl-white skin pointed toward Wang Lin's fist. The 2 sides collided in an instant. Wang Lin's punch trembled, and he clearly felt a destructive force enter his body from the 6 arms. This caused Wang Lin to retreat a few steps. The youth suffered as well. His face turned pale and popping sounds came from his body. The 6 flowers behind him collapsed. Evenly matched. As Wang Lin retreated, 6 black flowers appeared on his arm as if they were imprinted on his skin. His arm began to rot, and a sickly fluid flowed out. Intense pain entered Wang Lin's mind, and there was a flash of coldness in his eyes. An illusory star appeared between the eyebrows of the youth. A star also appeared in his right and left eye. This was the result of Wang Lin's ancient Tao cultivation combining with his cultivator cultivation. After the stars appeared, they turned into the ancient god, ancient demon, and ancient devil. They existed in the youth's mind and attacked his origin soul. The youth's expression had been calm from the beginning, and he remained calm. With just this calmness, Wang Lin considered this person to be very strong. Wang Lin didn't know that this youth was named Yun Yifeng, was very famous in the Guiyi sect back on the immortal astral continent. He was ranked 3rd among the core disciples. He had followed his uncle into the cave world, and after countless years, he had honed himself in the cave world and obtained great fortunes. Once he returned to the immortal astral continent, he would be like the proud son of the heavens and could fight for the position of 1st among the core disciples. With his identity as the 1st disciple of the Guiyi sect, his name would spread far among the 9 sects and 13 factions. The 2 didn't speak at all. Wang Lin waved his right hand and 3 of the 6 black flowers immediately dissipated. The remaining 3 flowers collapsed to the recovery of this immortal ancient body. His right arm recovered completely. As for the youth, he had his own methods. His hands formed a seal and then he pointed to his body several times. Then he took out a seed-like pill and swallowed it. The pill suddenly erupted with a strange force in his body and killed the ancient clan shadows inside him. However, his recovery was a few breaths slower than Wang Lin's because he had to swallow a pill. These few breaths of time were enough for Wang Lin to do everything he wanted to do. He didn't attack the youth, but formed a fist and punched the tower while the youth was recovering. This time, the youth could not stop it. With one punch, the world rumbled, the tower trembled and seemed to have absorbed Wang Lin's punch. It began to collapse from the bottom. Large amounts of dust rose into the air, and the bottom of the tower shattered until the 4th floor. The tower suddenly exploded, but the top 3 floors remained unmoving and unchanged. They floated there and gave off a brilliant light. These 3 floors seemed to be independent from the rest of the tower. It was as if the original people from the Guiyi sect had only brought these 3 floors and their descendants had built the floors below them. Afterwards, the moment the bottom part of the tower collapsed, an old but powerful voice came from the 3rd floor. This voice was like thunder, but it was beyond any thunder. The world changed colors and a voice descended like law. Ancient Dao Barbarian Jr., your Dao clan is the weakest among the 3 ancient clans. All of you are mere barbarians. Even if your family head came before our Guiyi sect, you were all just mere barbarians. The voice was filled with arrogance as he descended on Wang Lin. Before Wang Lin could feel any emotions, outside the planet, Xuanluo's expression became dim. No one had dared to insult his clan like this before. The old man from the 3rd floor was the first one. However, if this arrogant old man found out that Xuanluo had heard this, what kind of expression would he make? Would he be scared out of his wits? Reading so much. Besides, the golden keyboard is active. I ask everyone to support a bit more, not just words of support. I'm afraid I can't even carry the last 3. Chapter 1740 Double Elements Armor. 1. The words of the old man from the 3rd floor echoed across the world. They entered Wang Lin's ears and were also heard by the Guiyi sect Yun Yifeng. Yun Yifeng frowned. He usually looked very casual, but that was only on the surface. His pride came deep from his roots, and it was because of this pride that he didn't bother to humiliate people with words as well. He found things like this to be beneath him. Yun Yifeng frowned as he looked at Wang Lin and let out a yawn. He retreated to the side and ignored what was happening. As the words came out from the 3rd floor, there was a flash of green along with yellow. As the 2 colors spread, a proud-looking, whited-haired old man walked out of the 3rd floor. This old man's body was surrounded by the power of wood and earth. As he walked out, one could see the shadow of a towering tree in a sandstorm behind him. The pressure of a mid-stage arcane void cultivation spread out from the old man. After he walked out, he waved his right hand at the tower and a light screen appeared around the tower to protect it. It was extremely strong and it would be difficult to break it quickly. Breaking into planet 5 elements and reversing the heart wheel. You've got guts, kid. Since you came today, don't leave. I'll let you know there are some places your ancient Dao clan can enter. The old man looked at Wang Lin with a cold gaze. I'll capture you and then let your senior come to accept your sin. He didn't know Wang Lin was someone from the cave world. After seeing Wang Lin's ancient Dao power, he assumed Wang Lin also came from the immortal astral continent like them. He didn't think Wang Lin had come alone, and there were likely other people from the ancient Dao clan as well. It was likely they weren't here for the treasure but to find Yi Mo. The old man had thought of all this himself, and he believed what he thought was at least 80% correct. After speaking, he charged forward and waved his right hand. Popping sounds came from the shadow of the giant tree. The tree twisted and shrank until it became a mass of green light in the old man's hand. In the blink of an eye, the green light turned into a green whip. This whip was filled with the wood force and vitality. In the hands of the old man, he waved it and popping sounds echoed. It looked like a green python as it lashed toward Wang Lin. The world changed colors. It was as if everything had to collapse before the whip. The treasure the Guiyi sect was famous for was their whips. Their whips were very famous on the immortal astral continent, and they all had different production methods. Wang Lin couldn't clearly see the appearance of the green whip. He could only see the green light. This green light that was closing in on him was filled with wood element. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. There was still no movement from the remaining 2 floors. The old man from the 3rd floor already had shocking cultivation. He didn't know how powerful the two in the remaining 2 floors were. Wang Lin retreated several steps. As the green whip closed in, a flash of coldness appeared in his eyes and he pushed forward with his palm. The moment his palm pushed forward, his fingers clustered to form a fist, and he pulled back. Karma print. With this pull, a green light was extracted from the whip and sent into Wang Lin's grasp. He mercilessly squeezed, and the green light collapsed. Thunderous rumbles echoed and the whip paused for a moment. Just at this moment, the grass on the planet rapidly withered and turned into wood force that gathered inside the whip. In just a moment, the essence that was extracted by Wang Lin's karma print had been restored. The whip lashed by and landed on Wang Lin's body. There was a thunderous bang and Wang Lin's body trembled violently. The whip didn't touch his body but stopped 7 feet away. The ripples created by the whip caused Wang Lin to feel a powerful force hit his body. Wang Lin retreated several steps and suppressed the blood in his throat. The old man laughed arrogantly and lashed out once more. This time, his target was Wang Lin's head. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he began to deduce. He hadn't come here to kill. His purpose for being here was to see how deep the nail was and how strong these foreign cultivators were. Wang Lin was not surprised by the old man's cultivation level, but being entangled by this old man meant that he couldn't force out the last 2 people hiding in the last 2 floors. Whip? I have one as well. In a moment, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. His mind was as cunning as the devil's, so he was able to find the best method to get the answers he wanted. Wang Lin's right hand reached toward the void and his soul lasher appeared. The whip lashed around and cracking sounds echoed. The golden light from the soul lasher seemed to be competing with the green light. The moment the old man saw the soul lasher, he was shocked, but he soon remembered something, and his expression became gloomy. All of this happened in a flash. Wang Lin held the soul lasher and walked forward. He suddenly waved his arm and the soul lasher collided with the green whip. From afar, the 2 whips looked like 2 giant pythons. When they collided, they created a thunderous rumble. Whips were soft, and the moment they touched, they twisted together as if they were connected, making it very difficult to separate them. The golden light and the green light mixed together as the thunderous rumble echoed. Wang Lin held the soul lasher in his right hand, and the old man held onto the green whip. The 2 whips were like 2 sticks in their hands. At this moment, both of them pulled at the same time. The veins on the old man's face swelled as all his cultivation went into his right hand and erupted when he pulled the whip. However, he was only a cultivator. Wang Lin had the ancient Tao bloodline, and there was nothing in the world with a stronger body than the ancient ones. Not only did Wang Lin have the ancient Tao bloodline, but his avatar also had 7 essences. His essences also erupted and entered his right arm, fusing with his ancient Tao power. Along with the fact that Wang Lin's right hand belonged to Yi Mo, the power of the fusion reached a terrifying degree. Although the old man was at the mid-stage of arcane void, comparing his strength with Wang Lin's was simply ridiculous. With one pull, the world rumbled and the 2 whips let out sounds that made it seem like they couldn't bear it anymore. In an instant, the whip was pulled out of the old man's hand, leaving a blood mark on his hand. With a bang, the 2 whips were pulled toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he charged at the old man. The old man's expression was extremely gloomy and his hands formed seals as he rapidly retreated. The green whip that was pulled by Wang Lin immediately collapsed into green light that flew back toward the old man. At the same time, the sandstorm behind the old man moved forward and surrounded him. Cracking sounds echoed and the green light entered the sandstorm. The sandstorm rapidly shrank and formed an armor that contained wood and earth elements. The armor was earth yellow and contained flower-like patterns of green. Looking from a distance, the green drew a giant tree. When the armor appeared, the old man's cultivation suddenly erupted from mid-stage arcane void to peak of late-stage arcane void. He was only 1 step away from peak arcane void. This was the armor of the Guiyi sect. However, the more powerful the armor, the more difficult it was to control it, and it would cause great harm to the user. The old man's face was distorted in pain, and it looked like tree branches were drilling into his body. He looked up with a fierce expression and let out a painful howl before rushing forward. The moment he charged out, the earth moved like a wave. Giant hills appeared and moved with him. Also at this moment, all the grass on the planet withered and turned into strands of green that gathered before the old man. It changed into a large amount of towering trees that moved. These trees, looking like a dense jungle, quickly formed a giant treeman. This treeman was over tens of thousands of feet tall and wrapped around the old man. It closed in on Wang Lin and its right hand smashed down on in. Die for this old man. Buzzing sounds echoed, and the punch of that giant tree appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. The earth formed a vortex below Wang Lin, and a sandstorm surrounded him. The countless grains of sand rotated trying to tear Wang Lin's body apart. Inside the sandstorm, Wang Lin was calm. All of this was within his expectations. As the sandstorm surrounded him and the punch from the tree closed in, Wang Lin closed his eyes as he curled up. The immortal ancient spell shrouded his body. Outside Planet 5 Elements, Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo looked at what was happening on the planet. He had begun Wang Lin's test a long time ago, and right now he was very satisfied. Key eyes revealed a strange light. This is a spell similar to the immortal celestial body. What is he going to do? Fans celebrating the new year, please join the VIDEO fan battle team. If you need to complete a mission, Leo can praise everyone in the chapter narration. Wang Lin retreated into the sky and landed on the back of the giant nether beast with 2 steps. The nether beast was invisible when Wang Lin summoned it. Now that it had appeared, Wang Lin painfully sat down on its back. He endured all the injuries in his body as he stared at Planet 5 Elements. After seeing that there was no change to Planet 5 Elements, Wang Lin knew that the other party didn't dare to gamble. In truth, even if they had dared to gamble, Wang Lin still had other options. He still had the Li Guangbo. Although he was not willing to use it now, if faced with a crisis, he would use it without hesitation. Although Wang Lin had been injured on this trip to Planet 5 Elements, his gains were also great. He pressed several times on his body and suppressed the pain. The nether beast slowly retreated and left the space around Planet 5 Elements. It appeared back in the brilliant void. That old man named Ma's cultivation level is even higher powerful than the Sovereigness. Even if he hasn't reached the void tribulent stage. He must have passed through several arcane tribulants. Also, the first floor of the tower contained a suit of armor. Instead of a person, this Guiyi sect's cultivation is very strange. They actually rely on the armor. That armor in the first floor likely belongs to the old man named Ma. If it really belongs to him, what cultivation level would he reach upon wearing it? Wang Lin pondered. After Wang Lin left, the old man named Ma became gloomy and stared at the sky. He hesitated and couldn't decide between holding back or attacking. He wasn't sure if Wang Lin really had backups prepared. However, since Wang Lin had dared to come to such a dangerous place and had even forced him to return the blood sword, Wang Lin must have come prepared. While pondering, the old man named Ma's eyes became cold. As he stood there, the surroundings were completely silent. The old man wearing the double element armor respectfully stood there and didn't dare to make a sound. There were also the 3 middle-aged men from the 5th to 7th floors. They all respectfully stood there and seemed to be afraid of this old man named Ma. After a long time, the old man named Ma suddenly said, "What do you think?" Although his words weren't directed at anyone, only Yun Yifeng pondered and slowly answered. "Junior doesn't believe that the heavenly Tao can devour us. Uncle found some clues about the heavenly Tao, and I went looking for it over the years. Although I found nothing, I have some speculations. The heavenly Tao has been split. Although that child became its master, it is incomplete. Although the incomplete heavenly Tao can devour all living things, it can devour those with powerful cultivation. He must have come here because he found out we came from outside the cave world from somewhere. It is now the key moment to find the third soul, and he must be worried about this. Thus he came here to force us out of hiding. And now that he knows everything about us, he can make his plans. Of course, this is only Junior's guess. If this is really the reason he came, he is really something. That should be it. Aside from the heavenly Tao, he must have a backup plan if he dared to calmly come here. The old man named Ma's eyes lit up and he withdrew his gaze from the sky. He looked at everyone present with a gloomy expression and was about to return to the tower. However, just at this moment, a calm voice echoed across Planet 5 Elements. Was it you all who said that the ancient Tao clan were all mere barbarians? The moment the voice appeared, the expression of the old man named Ma changed. His pupils shrank, and cold sweat covered his forehead. Although this voice was calm, it could make one's heart tremble. The old man named Ma wasn't the only one like this. Yun Yifeng's expression changed greatly, and he didn't dare to move an inch. There was also the other three. Their bodies trembled, and their eyes were filled with fear. As for the old man wearing the double-element armor, his face immediately turned pale, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. That voice entered everyone's hearts, and a sense of fear erupted from their bodies. This fear was intense enough to destroy their life force. The three middle-aged men coughed out blood, and their bodies trembled as they retreated. It was as if an invisible person had closed in and pushed them away. The world changed colors and the clouds scattered. As ripples echoed, a vague figure appeared and walked toward the planet. The figure wasn't tall, but his appearance caused the earth to tremble and caused Planet 5 Elements to almost collapse. Everyone was filled with fear. It was as if this figure held the power to destroy heaven itself. After he appeared, the entire planet became dead silent. Even the sun in the sky disappeared. Was it you all who said that the ancient Dao clan were all mere barbarians before your Guiyi sect? The indifferent voice came from the vague figure. The figure walked forward, and no one dared to resist at all. The figure arrived before the old man wearing the double-element armor and causally grabbed the old man's neck. All of this happened far too fast, and the shocking pressure never stopped. The old man in the armor couldn't escape or resist. The moment he was grabbed by the figure, he began to struggle painfully. The vague figure gently waved his right hand, and thunderous rumbles echoed. The old man's powerful Guiyi sect double-element armor shattered like a piece of paper and dissipated. "It was you who said it." The vague figure pulled the old man close and coldly looked at him. This scene caused the old man named Ma's legs to tremble. Not only him, Yun Yifeng was also the same. Grand Empyrean, the old man named Ma's lip trembled. There was only one person who could casually destroy the Guiyi sect's armor and question about disrespect to the ancient Dao clan. Grand Empyrean Xuanluo. The old man named Ma coughed out blood and retreated a few steps. The fear in his eyes was monstrous. "It's time to double the likes for the VIDEO, wishing for more likes for the VIDEO. You still recognize this old man?" The vague figure's calm voice entered the ears of the old man named Ma. This caused his heart to tremble, and he continued to retreat. The old man named Ma's teeth trembled. He looked at the vague figure and clearly recognized what it was. This blur was not caused by a spell, but a unique effect resulting from the pressure of the 9 suns. The legendary 9 sons of the immortal astral continent. Unless it was someone from the same family or generation, it was rare to see their appearance. The giant difference in cultivation level and the pressure of the Grand Empyreans created a strange atmosphere that made their figures blurry. If they didn't wish it, then it would be difficult even for another one of the 9 sons to see their real appearance. There was no need to talk about these people that were as weak as ants before Xuanluo. The moment his words echoed, Xuanluo gently squeezed his hand and a rumble echoed across the world. The old man that had lost his armor collapsed into flesh and blood that disappeared in Xuanluo's hand. Xuanluo casually killed someone, and then waved his hand as if he wanted to wave away the smell of death on his hand. He turned and looked at the rest of the people here. As his gaze swept by, the hearts of everyone who was alive trembled. Aside from the old man named Ma and Yun Yifeng, everyone else's legs went soft and they knelt down on the ground. The old man named Ma clenched his teeth and forced himself to remain standing. However, his legs were trembling as he had reached his limit. Yun Yifeng's face was deathly pale and large beads of sweat rolled down, soaking his clothes. When Xuanluo's eyes swept by, it was as if the sky had collapsed on him, making him kneel and worship. However, the pride in his heart wouldn't allow him to kneel. At this moment, he trembled and popping sounds came from his body. It was as if his entire body was being squeezed. "Child, you are not bad." Grand Empyrean Xuanluo had his hands behind his back. After his gaze swept by, his gaze returned to Yun Yifeng. "It is very difficult to continue resisting under my pressure. Unfortunately, you are not of the ancient Dao." Unfortunate, Xuanluo let out a sigh. When he withdrew his gaze, Yun Yifeng could no longer withstand the pressure. He coughed out blood and knelt down on the ground. The old man named Ma withstood for a few more breaths. His face was pale and he smiled bitterly before he gave up resisting. He knew that if he continued to resist, he would, without a doubt, die. His expression became dim as he knelt down and remained motionless. Please give Guiyi Secte's head elder face and let us leave. We will leave this cave world immediately and never come again. Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo's right hand reached toward the first floor of the tower. The first floor collapsed, revealing what was inside completely. The black armor gave off a strange light as the rubble fell. I'll be taking this armor. When your Guiyi sect felt you have the qualifications to take it back, come take it from his old man personally. Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo's words were calm, and the armor seemed to be caught by a force of the 5 elements. The armor flew toward Xuan Luo and disappeared before him. Then Xuan Luo let out a cold snort and disappeared into the distance. After Xuan Luo left, his voice entered the hearts of everyone on Planet 5 Elements. It's not time for you all to leave. Do what you have to do. Only after Xuan Luo had been gone for a long time did the old man named Ma stand up with a complicated expression. The rest also gradually stood up. Yun Yifeng clenched his teeth as he looked up at the sky toward where Xuan Luo had gone. His expression was extremely gloomy. Sooner or later, I'll become a Grand Empyrean, become the 10th son. Yun Yifeng clenched his fist. The surroundings were completely silent. After a long time, the old man named Ma let out a sigh. He looked around, and his expression was extremely bleak. The old man named Ma slowly said, "Forget it. The plan we have been waiting for has no chance of success now, even if we were certain to win. With him here we can finish it." That Wang Lin came from the same direction, but based on the fact that they didn't appear at the same time, and Wang Lin's expression from before. He doesn't seem to know about Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo. With that in mind, the reason why Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo is not letting us leave becomes obvious. Yun Yifeng spoke calmly. He was a core disciple of the Guiyi sect, and someone even Xuan Luo found talented. He was naturally very cunning, and similar to Wang Lin in this respect. With such simple clues, he was able to get 80% or 90% of the story correct. What Feng Er said is correct. That should be it. Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo is obviously testing Wang Lin. He must have come from the immortal astral continent for this Wang Lin. The eyes of the old man named Ma lit up. A long time ago, Yimo died in this cave world and scattered drops of his blood. This Wang Lin must have obtained Ye Mo's legacy and caught Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo's attention. Yun Yifeng's eyes shined, and he began to ponder. Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo won't let us leave, because he wants us to become the stone to sharpen the knife, to test Wang Lin. Before he left, he said we should do what we have to do. If we don't understand his meaning, we will never be able to leave here. All of us will die here. Yun Yifeng rubbed his temples. As Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo walked through the stars, he looked back for a moment. Planet 5 Elements appeared in his eyes, which glinted with a hint of admiration. That child is very cunning. Unfortunately, he is a celestial. I wonder who is more cunning between Wang Lin and him. It should be this person. Xuan Luo shook his head and continued to walk forward. As for Wang Lin, he was sitting on the back of the nether beast with his eyes closed and was rapidly healing. He had been seriously injured during this trip to Planet 5 Elements, but it was all worth it. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes. There was a flash of coldness in his eyes, and he slowly spat out a mouthful of foul air. The Guiyi sect is a powerful force in the search for the third soul. Now that they have been forced out of the shadows by me, it's time for me to get involved in the search for the third soul. The third soul, who are you? Wang Lin's right hand patted the back of the nether beast. The beast suddenly sped up and disappeared among the stars. When it appeared, it was outside the Silver River around the new celestial realm. Wang Lin stood up and put the nether beast away. He pondered for a long time while floating there. His figure was lit up by the Silver River but gave off a lonely feeling. It was as if his soul was feeling sorrow. Today is a special day. Wang Lin let out a sigh and stepped forward. He turned into a ray of light and charged into the Silver River. He rushed through the Silver River and entered the celestial realm. Just as Wang Lin entered the celestial realm, Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo walked out. He looked at the celestial realm before he waved his sleeve and followed Wang Lin. His figure was blurry and invisible. Even if you were standing in front of him, you wouldn't notice his presence. However, just as he entered, Wang Lin suddenly stopped and turned around. Wang Lin's eyes were cold as he stared at Xuan Luo. Xuan Luo couldn't help but be stunned by Wang Lin's gaze. You have followed me the entire way. Since you already came here, why don't you show yourself? Wang Lin's voice was cold and full of killing intent. Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo's eyes revealed a strange light. He carefully looked at Wang Lin for a long time. He didn't speak or reveal himself. Could it be that you really want me to force you out? Wang Lin sneered and he waved his right hand. A storm formed by 7 essences flew out and swept the area before him. As the storm swept by, Wang Lin stared at the void carefully, and after making sure there was nothing, he stepped into the celestial realm. In truth, he hadn't noticed Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo, but Wang Lin had always been cautious. If it was before, it would have been fine, but he had just left Planet 5 Elements. He was afraid the old man named Ma had secretly followed him, so he had decided to suddenly turn around. If someone had really followed him, they would have likely been fooled by him to reveal themselves. It wasn't until Wang Lin disappeared that Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo smiled and revealed admiration in his eyes. This little fellow sure is careful. His eyes contained some kind of spell that would have given people the illusion that he was staring at them. Although this method is simple and not very clever, it is very practical. Xuan Luo smiled. He was indeed startled by Wang Lin's words and action. Inside the 5-element formation, I saw his domineering nature. In the 9-cycle heart wheel, I saw his comprehension. Outside the tower on Planet 5 Elements, I saw his decisiveness and cunning. Here, I saw his caution. This Wang Lin is very good. However, the person I chose must value relationships. I wonder if he has it or not. Xuan Luo pondered as he walked through the Silver River and entered the beautiful celestial realm. The sky of the celestial realm was blue with clouds that were like wisps of smoke. It was very pleasing to the eye. The ground was a crisp green with mountains and rivers in the distance. The fragrance of the earth fused with the world, and breathing it in would penetrate one's soul. Wang Lin returned to the celestial realm. Aside from Tao Master Blue Dream, no one else noticed Wang Lin's return. Wang Lin appeared before the mountain he had used for closed-door cultivation before. Looking at the sky, Wang Lin's expression gradually became dim. His eyes were gradually filled with thoughts and sorrow. Every year on this day, he wanted to make himself forget something. Most of the time, he made himself busy so he couldn't remember. As usual, 2 chapters at noon, 10 minutes apart, and 2 more at 8 in the evening, 10 minutes apart. If anything comes up, the other will be informed. Longing for the like button for the video. However, right now, after everything had calmed down, he couldn't make himself forget. It's this day of the year again. Wang Lin lowered his head bitterly and sat down. At this moment, Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo was standing on top of the mountain and silently watching Wang Lin. After sitting down, Wang Lin let out a deep breath and his right hand reached out. The ghostly sail appeared and surrounded his body. It seemed as if he wasn't willing to allow anyone to see himself. He just wanted to quietly spend this day by himself. The sky of the celestial realm was clear and the sunlight was coming from some unknown place. The sunlight shone on the earth, and it wasn't hot but was warm. The mountain Wang Lin was at was very quiet. He was inside the ghostly sail as he looked up at the sky for a long time. Soon, I'll head to the immortal astral continent there. I will find a way to wake you up. Trust me just like what I promised you back then, even if heaven wants you to die. I'll snatch you back. Due to his quiet surroundings, his heart was calm and melancholy. Wang Lin vaguely felt like he didn't have much time left in the cave world. Soon, he was likely to leave this place and head to the foreign immortal astral continent. Wang Lin had gone to a lot of foreign places in his life, and loneliness had accompanied him all throughout his journeys. Although he had been lonely, Li Muan had accompanied him, making his loneliness a bit lighter and bearable. Today is a special day. Do you remember Wang Lin couldn't remember his own age, his own birthday, but he remembered this day thousands of years ago. This was a day he could not forget. Every year on this day, he would spend it by himself, whether he was slaughtering to make himself forget, escaping to bury it in the bottom of his heart, or in closed-door cultivation where he silently passed the years. However, most of the time, he would drink by himself. The spicy wine flowed down his throat, but he could not feel the spiciness because melancholy, loneliness, and loss filled his heart. No matter how strong the wine was, it wasn't able to wash them away at all. One air, I accepted Li Qianmei. I am sorry, Wang Lin silently pondered. He took out a jug of wine inside the ghostly sail and drank it. That amount of kindness is something I can repay one air. I don't want to love in this life. Because your departure let me know the price of love, I can bear it. More than 2,000 years ago on this day, a cry for help filled with thoughts for revenge entered Wang Lin's heart. That voice was very soft, helpless, and would make one feel sorry for it. That voice made Wang Lin stop and turn his head. He saw a figure he didn't know but would remember for the rest of his life. This figure was his woman. Wang Lin's heart felt pain, and he drank all the wine in the jug. He threw it aside and took out another jug. Not far away, Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo was sitting there and looking at Wang Lin's back. The sorrow and loneliness being given off by this figure moved even him. One air, just wait for me, it won't be long before I can do it. Wang Lin drank a mouthful of wine and let it overflow from the corner of his mouth. He waved his sleeve and the heaven avoidance coffin appeared before him. Looking at the sleeping Li Muwan inside the coffin, he revealed a gentle smile. But it felt like a needle had pierced his heart. Wang Lin looked at Li Muwan for a long time before he gently opened the lid of the coffin. His left hand trembled as he slowly reached into the coffin until he touched Li Muwan's face. He gently caressed Li Muwan's face. The pain in Wang Lin's heart turned into a tide of sorrow that ruthlessly drowned him. Tears came from Wang Lin's eyes. His tears fell on Li Muwan and wetted her clothes. Your sliver of soul is gone, it's not in the divine retribution anymore. But no matter where it is, no matter who has it, I'll take it back, Wang Lin murmured as he picked up the jug of wine and took a big gulp. His tears mixed with the wine and became bitter, but he drank it all. Wang Lin threw away the wine jug and his right hand pointed to the spot between his eyebrows. His left hand pointed to the spot between Li Muwan's eyebrows and he closed his eyes. Ghostly face illusion, dream for millennia, Wang Lin muttered as the ghostly sail around him distorted. The ghostly face roared and flew out, then it disappeared in between Wang Lin's eyebrows. The fog around Wang Lin became dense, making it impossible to see everything inside. Xuan Luo silently pondered, and his expression was complicated. He had some ideas, and with a sigh he pointed at the fog around Wang Lin. His divine sense entered the fog. Wang Lin, it's not that this old man can disturb you, but I need to understand everything about you. I am not only choosing my only disciple, I need someone that will protect my reincarnation and guard my ancient Dao clan. A very important person. Xuan Luo closed his eyes. The moment he closed his eyes, his mind entered the dream world Wang Lin was in. He felt the sorrow that came from this world. The sky was dark, and there were monstrous flames in the distance, lighting up the sky. Sounds of slaughter and spells colliding could be heard in the distance. Wang Lin was standing there, and the confusion in his eyes gradually dissipated. He looked back at the direction of the Sea of Devils, and slowly waited. After a long time, two rays of light flew by before Wang Lin's eyes. It was a man and a woman. The woman in front looked pale and frightened, her body shaking. This woman was like a lotus fairy, gentle and elegant. She was Li Muwan. The man behind her had a face filled with lust as he casually chased after her. Little girl, your team of 13 people has been killed by me. Where can you run? While he spoke, he waved right hand. A large part of Li Muwan's clothes were torn off, revealing her skin. As Li Muwan let out a cry, the man sniffed his right hand. The lust in his eyes became even more intense. Just at this moment, Li Muwan saw Wang Lin. Her heart was weak right now after facing humiliation and danger. She recognized that Wang Lin looked familiar. It's you! Senior brother saved me. As she spoke, she changed direction and instantly arrived beside Wang Lin. Her face was filled with anxiousness as she clenched her teeth and quickly said, "This person is the elder of the double cultivation sect from the country of Xuan Wu. He found out that I have a distant heaven pill. That's why he didn't hesitate. She was very clever and immediately revealed the distant heaven pill to make Wang Lin act. However, before she finished speaking, she was startled because Wang Lin was looking at her with a gentle smile. This gaze made it seem as if he was looking at someone he had loved for thousands of years. This gaze caused Li Muwan to tremble. Just as Li Muwan was about to speak, the young man in the distance smiled coldly. He naturally saw Wang Lin but didn't care at all. He raised his right hand and 8 flying swords appeared around him and shot toward Wang Lin like a whirlwind. Wang Lin looked at Li Muan and naturally caught her with his right hand. Li Muan's eyes were filled with shame as Wang Lin looked at the lustful youth behind the 8 swords. With one gaze, the 8 flying swords immediately became distorted and collapsed. As for the young man, the moment he met Wang Lin's eyes, his heart rumbled and he coughed out blood. Just as fear appeared in his eyes, his body was torn apart by an invisible force. Everything suddenly became silent. Li Muan looked stunned at all of this and forgot to struggle. She was being held in Wang Lin's arms while his longing gaze fell on her. Senior brother you after a long time, Li Muan recovered. Her face immediately turned pale as she looked at Wang Lin timidly with fear. Seeing Li Muan like this, Wang Lin felt a sting in his heart and gently loosened his hand. I am called Wang Lin. After Wang Lin muttered this, Li Muan immediately retreated more than 1,000 feet. She paused for a moment and timidly looked at Wang Lin. She then bowed at Wang Lin and quickly left. Watching Li Muan's obviously frightened figure, Wang Lin revealed a happy smile. However, the bitterness and sorrow hidden under the smile couldn't be seen by others. In the distance, Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo silently watched all of this, and even his heart felt a sting of pain. He looked at Wang Lin, he looked at the smile on Wang Lin's face, and silently pondered. What kind of loneliness and sorrow could make one look for joy in a dream? Xuan Luo let out a sigh. Wang Lin stood there with a smile until Li Muan's figure disappeared. He then slowly closed his eyes, and everything around him disappeared. When he opened his eyes, he was in the celestial realm, on the mountain looking at Li Muan, who was sleeping inside the coffin. The sky was no longer blue. It was now night. The night had a dreamlike full moon hanging in the sky. There seemed to be 2 figures slowly walking together in front of it. These were the figures of a man and a woman. Mid-month already, brothers. Do you have likes for the VIDE already? Don't hold back, wishing for those likes. Looking at the moon in the night, a gentle breeze blew by, causing Wang Lin's white hair to flutter in the wind. This wind was very gentle, like Wan Er's hand that caressed Wang Lin's ancient face. One gaze was like 1,000 years. This night, the moon and the stars were scattered, and this night was sleepless. This night, with Li Muan accompanying him, Wang Lin's heart was calm as he was not alone. The wind blew by, and as it blew, Wang Lin's heart also blew into the coffin. It lifted Li Muan's black hair and gently blew past. The black hair in the coffin seemed to want to fly into the sky as well, but in the end, it lacked the strength and drifted back down. It wasn't until the moonlight became thick that Wang Lin saw an old figure in the distance. This old figure was surrounded by a blue light, and beside him was a woman. This woman was Li Chanmei. The father and daughter seemed to have arrived a long time ago. They had watched Wang Lin enter the dream and had seen his tears fall on Li Muan. Before Wang Lin's eyes, the woman and her father turned around in the moonlight and gradually walked away. However, their figures contained a hint of loneliness. This was especially true for the woman. Wang Lin closed his eyes and didn't say a sword. This night belonged to him and Li Muan and no one else. The night was scattered a bit by the sun that was rising. Another color beside the moonlight appeared. At this moment, Wang Lin opened his eyes and looked at Li Muan inside the coffin. One gaze was like 1,000 years. Wait for me, Wang Lin murmured as he waved his right hand. The coffin disappeared and Wang Lin carefully put it away. He faced the sky with the sun and the moon before letting out a deep breath. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he muttered to himself, "It is time to search for the third soul." The 7-colored Taoist and old ghost John should have all found some clues. Outside the celestial realm, it was as Wang Lin expected. Even after experiencing the heavenly Tao, they hadn't given up on looking for the third soul. At this moment, they were in the cloud sea, moving in a formation, and the gourd above their heads was spraying out large amount of fog. This fog was like a guide, and the 4 of them slowly followed it. They flew by stars and floating continent as they moved toward our heaven. Old Ghost John followed with a gloomy expression. They maintained a certain balance and wouldn't disturb each other. After a long time, the gourd above the 4 generals suddenly sprayed out more fog. The fog rumbled and formed a giant figure. This figure was not that of a human but a fierce beast that looked like a dog. It looked like a Qilin but was different and made of fog. Its nose moved as if it was sniffing something. A moment later, the fierce beast suddenly looked up and revealed a ferocious gaze. It jumped out from above the four generals' heads and charged forward. Thunderous rumbles echoed and all four generals became excited as they followed. Old Ghost Jan's eyes lit up. It was difficult to hide his expectation as he followed. The giant beast continued to sniff as it moved forward. Finally, it arrived before an abandoned continent and started to roar at it. The four generals quickly closed in and landed on the continent. Their divine senses shrouded the continent and began carefully searching it. Old Ghost Jan also landed on the continent and his divine sense spread out. But he soon frowned. This continent had been abandoned and was filled with ruins. A long time ago there was life here, and a large amount of mortals lived here. However, right now everything had disappeared with time. There was no life on the continent. It was dead silent, and only the auras of a few fierce beasts remained. The four generals' eyes lit up and they looked at each other. When they did this, a destructive force surrounded the continent. In a flash, there was a series of miserable screams and a storm killed all the living things on this continent. After destroying all life here, strands of smoke came out of the continent and entered the mouth of the beast. After absorbing it, the beast shook its head and flew off. This is not it either. Although this is not the place, the fact that the celestial sovereign's life fog beast stayed here to sniff means that the third soul must have spent a reincarnation here. The more the fog beast absorbs the third soul's reincarnation aura, the better it can judge the location of the third soul. It has already devoured several times, so it says almost time. The four generals looked at each other and then left this dead continent. They followed the fog beast to the edge of the cloud sea. This place led to Al Heaven. Old Ghost John followed behind. As he stared at the fog beast, his eyes lit up. It looks like the third soul is in Al Heaven. I spent the most time in Al Heaven. If the third soul is really in Al Heaven, then it is a person or a beast. In the other side of Al Heaven was the brilliant void. A seven-colored cloud rapidly moved through the star system. The seven-colored Taoist frowned as he looked at a drop of crystal blood in his hand. He had searched all of brilliant void aside from Planet 5 elements. He had checked every inch of the star system, every planet, and every grain of dust, but in the end, he found no clue at all. While pondering, the seven-colored Taoist raised his head. He had seen the third soul fly to the brilliant void in the illusion within an illusion inside the rift in the cloud sea. He just didn't know if the third soul had stopped at the brilliant void or gone through. Because at the critical moment, Wang Lin had interrupted his illusion and was forced awake. Thinking about this, the seven-colored Taoist became even more gloomy, and his hatred for Wang Lin became even stronger. Even without the illusion, with all the blood I collected during all the wars between the inner and outer realms, I can still find the third soul. If he isn't in the brilliant void, I'll go search Summoned River. I'll search all for star systems if I have to. I don't believe the third soul can leave the cave world. The seven-colored Taoist had a grim expression as he flew toward the Summoned River. As he moved forward, he was still looking at the blood in his hand. The blood hadn't changed this whole time, but the seven-colored Taoist knew that this blood contained the life of people from the cave world. If it encountered people from the cave world, it would do nothing, but if it encountered the reincarnation of something from outside the cave world, it would shine brightly. However, the range of the drop of blood was not wide, and there was only one drop, so it would waste a large amount of time. However, he had already waited for so long, the time it took now was irrelevant. As he stepped forward, the seven-colored Taoist arrived in the Summoned River and began searching carefully. With this kind of search, the third soul couldn't hide at all. It wouldn't be long before the greatest secret in the cave world would be exposed. Wang Lin was also searching for the third soul. Wang Lin sat on the mountain, and his divine sense shrouded the celestial realm. He found Qing Shui in a wooden pavilion on a mountain in the northwestern part of the celestial realm. Red Butterfly was also there with Qing Shui. The father and daughter pair lived there in peace. Right now, Qing Shui was smiling at Red Butterfly, giving pointers to some difficulties she had in her cultivation. She was already very talented and had learned a lot. Cultivation emphasizes on emotions and ideals. Ideals are everything, and Qing Shui's eyes suddenly lit up and he looked up in the sky. There was a flash of complicated emotion in his gaze, and a moment later, he stood up. Butterfly, Practice by yourself. Your father has something to do first." With that, Xianxia took a step and turned into a shadow that disappeared from the room. Red Butterfly looked at where her father disappeared and revealed a trace of worry. After pondering for a moment, she let out a sigh, closed her eyes, and she began to calmly cultivate. Ripples echoed on the mountain Wang Lin was on, and Xianxia walked out. "Senior brother Xianxia, help me find a soul." Wang Lin stood up and clasped his hands at Xianxia. Xianxia silently pondered and then arrived next to Wang Lin. His expression was complicated, and after a long time he softly said, "You know my identity." Wang Lin looked at Xianxia and nodded. "Back in the seven-colored realm, you didn't ask me if I had found the answer. In fact, I had found it. I knew I was only formed by a soul fragment. Forgive me for not telling you about this. I didn't want to admit it myself." Xianxia closed his eyes and sat down before Wang Lin. Xianxia muttered, "Do it. I don't know what method you will use, but I'll do my best to help you. I only know the senior brother Xianxia is one of the 7 fragments. As for the other 6, I have no clue, but senior brother can rest assured. No matter what, I want to allow the 3 souls to fuse and devour the 7 fragments. When I find the 3rd soul, I'll kill it." Wang Lin's right hand pointed to the spot between his eyebrows and the ghostly sail flew out. It rapidly expanded into a giant ghostly face that floated above the 2 of them. The ghostly face looked fierce and charged at Wang Lin and Xianxia. It opened its mouth and instantly devoured the 2 of them. The moment the 2 of them were devoured, their minds rumbled. It was as if thunder had exploded and brought their divine senses back to ancient times, when the 7-colored celestial sovereign's soul split it into the 3 souls and 7 fragments. "Search for the 3rd soul." Mid-month and it's been forgotten. Hoping for the like button for the video, tears start to flow. Is there still time? Chapter DEVILMUTATION. TL Metal Max, Void, TLC PD, Ed Demon Killer. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a chilly radiance, staring intently at the little altered beast devil. His G-realm divine consciousness suddenly parted from his body, transforming into a gigantic scarlet aquatic dragon, and roared while facing the little beast devil. The dignity of a former soul devourer once again emerged. Needless to say that the little altered beast devil and even the devil Shuli Guo immediately shrank down onto the ground, not daring to move. This kind of pressure that came from a natural predator was making them fearful and apprehensive. The little altered beast devil tried to roar like the previous times. However, compared to Wang Lin, it felt powerless. Slowly, an expression akin to begging for forgiveness appeared in the eyes of the beast devil. The G-realm divine consciousness, in the form of a gigantic scarlet aquatic dragon, coldly stared at the devil for a moment, before it was slowly withdrawn into Wang Lin's body. Meanwhile, he waved his right hand and took out a soul flag. This little altered devil without hesitation turned its body into red smoke and drilled into the soul flag. Wang Lin left behind a trace of his divine consciousness on the soul flag, and then returned it to his storage bag. At the same time, he waved his right hand again, and all around silk-like threads started shining. All these were set up beforehand by him by using his divine consciousness as a preemptive measure to subdue the devil. As Wang Lin grasped out with a big hand, the fine threads of divine consciousness around him immediately merged together and were collected by him. The reason why he was able to follow its movement, regardless of how fast the speed of the little beast devil was due to these fine threads of divine consciousness, through which he was able to detect the beast devil's movements right away. Wang Lin had quietly and passively put the divine consciousness restriction on all sides, transforming it into silk threads, and with the dense and numerous distribution, it seemed just like a spider's net. No matter where the little beast went, Wang Lin was able to perceive it immediately. At the same time, due to this devil having fused a lot of souls, the trace of divine consciousness that he put on his body also played a great role. Utilizing the combination of the two, it was not surprising that Wang Lin was able to perceive the actions of the devil. After recovering his divine consciousness, Wang Lin stood up and, following along the pagoda's window, looked outside. After pondering a bit, he suddenly moved and walked down to the entrance of the pagoda. After tidying himself up, he stepped out, followed closely behind by the devil, who, after seeing Wang Lin sinking into the ground, hurriedly followed behind. Unfortunately, it couldn't follow for much long, as Wang Lin grabbed it and threw it inside the dragon's tendons. At this point, the resistance underground had already become quite severe. Wang Lin almost needed to use 90% of his spiritual force to fight the resistance. Therefore, his speed couldn't help but slow down. While slowly moving forward, he dispersed his divine consciousness on the ground, as he carefully observed from a distance. A few days later, Wang Lin's expression changed slightly. Through his divine consciousness, he saw a black cloud which was at an extremely far-away place. This black cloud's speed was very fast and was rapidly flying towards him. Wherever the black cloud passed, hurricanes would disperse one after the other. Occasionally, some would be unable to dodge it in time, which would result in them to immediately scatter into the respective small beasts, which would then be swallowed by the black cloud. Wang Lin was intently watching this black cloud. Immediately, he put the antidote pill into his mouth and slowly sank downward. Not long after, the black cloud came screaming. Behind it approached the overlord of the hurricanes. At this time, the hurricane was rapidly rotating, bringing along countless gale winds along with it, enabling it to move rapidly towards the black cloud. As the overlord of the hurricanes moved towards the black cloud, it flashed past Wang Lin, who had sunk deep into the ground, moving far off in the distance. Not long after, the overlord of the hurricanes returned. This time, its speed was fast as it issued fierce roars while it flashed past once again before disappearing into the distance. After it had left, Wang Lin slowly started moving forward again. He was sneering inwardly. It went without saying that that black cloud was obviously made by Hunchback Meng, and seeing its power, it seemed like the overlord of hurricanes wanted to blow it apart, otherwise once if it spreads. It was afraid that the small beast would suffer heavy casualties. He pondered a bit, then his eyes flashed. He thought inwardly that if these small beasts were able to kill Hunchback Meng, then he would certainly have a lot of treasures and immortal pills on his person. Thinking of the treasures that a spirit-forming stage grade expert would have with him, Wang Lin couldn't help but palpitate with eagerness, but soon he gave up on that idea. As compared to the treasures, he still considered his little life more important. With a sigh, Wang Lin put away those unrealistic thoughts in his mind and continued to walk forward, but having confirmed the direction of Hunchback Meng in front, he slightly changed his direction and no longer went in a straight line, instead opted to move around it. About half a month later, Wang Lin had been cautious and prudent as he detoured that patch while using his divine consciousness to look around, when he suddenly caught a glimpse of a group of hurricanes which caused him to be immediately surprised. This was a dense cluster of hurricanes, and he was afraid that the small beasts within it numbered more than 100 million. Wang Lin's scalp went numb as he increased the caution in his heart, and finally, after another half a month, he was able to pass by. Fortunately, these hurricanes on the Earth Domain's ground were mostly attracted towards Hunchback Meng. Along the way, Wang Lin remained careful as there were quite a few near misses. He was now standing in a black pagoda. Turning around and looking behind, he saw Hunchback Meng there. After sneering a few times, Wang Lin, without demur, quickly left the black pagoda and moved forward. He could already see that ahead of him in the sky at a very far-off place, there was a huge vortex. That vortex was exactly the same as the one in the place of nothingness. It must obviously lead to the second barrier. Wang Lin took a deep breath and began moving into the direction of the vortex. He was no longer able to use the Earth escape technique, as the underground resistance was too great. Even if he used 100% of his spiritual force to resist it, it would be difficult to effectively activate the Earth escape technique. However, the Earth escape technique was not restricted to just increasing his speed while underground. Even if one is not underground, as long as one's feet were touching soil, then although the speed may be slower in comparison to flying swords, but it was quite a bit faster compared to walking. These past few months, Wang Lin had used the Earth escape technique almost on a daily basis. At this time, he had become quite proficient in the escape technique. Wang Lin himself could vaguely feel that the Earth escape technique that he practiced, and the Earth escape technique described by the Jade Strip of shrinking the Earth into an inch, and moving 5,000 kilometers in a flash outside the purview of divine powers, can only be considered as bullshit and nothing more. Wang Lin sighed. He did not forget to use divine consciousness to cautiously observe all around. The situation was good. Most of the hurricanes were attracted by Hunchback Meng. Wang Lin was able to fly all the way around without encountering any danger. 3 days later, the vortex was already quite prominent. Wang Lin just walked along before suddenly stopping. Without saying anything further, he immediately drilled and entered into the ground. Suddenly, a huge and violent resistance transmitted from the ground. He straightway drank a big mouthful of Lingqi liquid, from which spirit power traveled throughout his body, giving him strength to resist. Not far away, suddenly there appeared more than 10 hurricanes. These hurricanes came from the place where the vortex was located, and their target was precisely the direction where Hunchback Meng was located. Passing through the place where Wang Lin's figure was concealed, these few hurricanes suddenly stopped and started spiraling around in all directions, instead of moving. Wang Lin's heart sank. He had tried entering the heaven-revolting space before, but after coming here for some unknown reason he was unexpectedly unable to enter. Otherwise, he would have just needed to enter it and he would have been able to pass by safely. Wang Lin glanced at the whirlpool in the distance, calculating the distance in his mind. He immediately clenched his teeth and patted his storage bag. The devil immediately appeared, as it instantly became aware of the large number of small beasts. It excitedly rushed out of the ground without bothering to think carefully. Unfortunately, the moment its figure appeared, all around the tens of hurricanes immediately issued an intense howling sound, and the 10,000 divine consciousnesses together forming a streak of lightning came crashing down upon the devil. The devil screamed pitifully a few times, after realizing that the opposition's combined divine consciousness attack was beyond what he was capable. Its body shed blue smoke. It was scared and wanted to quickly return to Wang Lin's side. At this time, the second wave of divine consciousness attack approached like lightning once again. At the same time, Wang Lin activated the soul flag, and while it trembled, the second devil immediately appeared. This devil, after coming out of the ground, was immediately startled as it suddenly sent out a sharp cry. This sharp cry just now caused those hurricanes to be shocked, and actually they no longer rotated, as they exposed the numerous small beasts within as they flapped their wings. These small beasts were alarmed to see the second devil, and even the second wave of divine consciousness attack that was sent towards Devil Shu Liguo was immediately retracted back. The second devil's eyes revealed a red light, as it again issued a fierce roaring sound. Those small beasts suddenly dispersed backwards, as looking at this devil's eyes had caused them to show an expression of fear. Wang Lin got quite surprised, as his eyes flashed, and it looked as if he was in deep thought. As for Shu Liguo, at this time was feeling quite humiliated. It must be said that his memory being restored was not a good thing. At least before his memory was restored, he wouldn't feel this kind of humiliation. At this time, he said to himself, lost too much face, unexpectedly let the younger brother save me. How would it be possible to persuade the fiend that I am still number one? Never. If this trend continues, then this fiend would continue to make more and more younger brothers, and each one produced would be more powerful than me. This one do, this absolutely can happen. The devil gnashed his teeth, as it flew out and drilling into the hurricane, hurriedly grabbed a few small beasts, throwing them into his body, swallowing in one gulp. Those small beasts immediately panicked and were about to evade, when the second devil once more made a fierce roar. Those small beasts did not dare to move again. The color of fear in their eyes was too strong. The more Wang Lin looked, the brighter his eyes became. He could now analyze this situation in his heart a bit. This second devil, in the eyes of the other small beasts, should look as if it is between same kind and a different kind. Inside of it there must have occurred some marvelous changes, causing it to dominate its peers, resulting in the scene in front of him. If that was true, then the reason that these small beasts are able to fuse their divine consciousnesses together gradually became clear. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he immediately drilled out from the ground. The moment he appeared, although there appeared a color of alertness in the eyes of the small beasts, they did not panic, and nor did they take the initiative to attack. At this time the second devil, seeing Shu Liguo gobbling up, he issued several strange sounds from his mouth, and immediately all the small beasts started shaking, as one by one divine consciousness left their respective bodies, and gathering together in one place, immediately appearing like a series of lightning and targeted Shu Liguo. Devil Shu Liguo forced a smile, as his face showed a flattering expression. He quickly spit out all the divine consciousnesses that he had just swallowed, and quickly returned to behind Wang Lin. After which the flattering expression on his face changed, appearing like gnashing his teeth as he ferociously stared at the second devil. He muttered, just you wait, you force me, I'll come and kill you later." Wang Lin didn't give a glance to Shu Liguo. His hands pinched Li Mu Wan's defensive jade talisman. His divine consciousness slowly spread out, observing these small beasts, one after another till the end. He discovered, inside these 10 or so groups of small beasts, every group had one which associated clearly with divine consciousness and was stronger than the rest. As Wang Lin observed, he realized that those dozen different species, suddenly one flew out and stopped in front of the second devil, issuing acutely sharp-pitched noises from its mouth. Mid-month and the hope for likes on the video has slipped by 2 days already? Tears streaming. Is there any hope left? It was similar to how he had entered the 7-color Taoist illusion, but this time, Qing Shui was the guide. Wang Lin was using the ghostly sail to enter the illusion to find the truth of the ancient past. Inside this illusion, the sky was blood red and the earth was also red, as if it was soaked in blood. The smell of blood was too thick, and right after Wang Lin appeared, he felt a suffocating feeling from his chest. It was as if a large rock was on his chest, making it difficult to breathe. Looking around, Wang Lin saw pieces of bodies covering the ground. There were bodies everywhere, but very few were complete. There were still eyes filled with fear before death. There was also the vague figure that had been imprinted into the eyes. This was a mortal palace. Normally this place would be bright, but now it was covered in blood, making it a palace of death. A thunderous bang came from the distance. As large amounts of dust scattered, Wang Lin saw a palace collapse in the distance. There was a man covered in blood, holding up a man in a royal robe. His gaze was cold, and he was shrouded by a crazed killing intent. Your family destroyed my family before. Today I'll repay it. The man squeezed his right hand and the old man in the royal robe exploded. Blood splattered on the man's body and face. At the same time, countless rays of sword energy closed in. It was hundreds of ancient cultivators closing in and arriving above the palace. However, just as they closed in, the man suddenly looked up and his eyes revealed a demonic red gaze. The red light flew out and turned into a bolt of red lightning. It flew into the sky and pierced through all the cultivators. It only took a moment, and the hundreds of cultivators trembled before they collapsed. G-Realm Wang Lin muttered as he looked around. He looked at the bloodstained man, and his eyes revealed enlightenment. This is only the first illusion. Back in the country of clear water, Wang Lin stepped through the blood on the ground and walked toward the man. The blood dyed the earth red, and the scattered blood carried Qing Shui's hate. It was so dense, it couldn't be washed away at all. If the heavens try to stop me, I'll kill the heavens. If the celestials try to stop me, I'll kill the celestials. Qing Shui looked up at the sky as the hundreds of cultivators collapsed. His face was filled with killing intent. I want the world to be covered with rivers of blood. I want the world to pay the price and suffer my slaughter calamity. Qing Shui's voice echoed across the world, revealing the madness in his heart. When Wang Lin closed in, he looked at the back of Qing Shui covered in blood. His figure was very sad and lonely. Although the revenge was complete, there was no joy, only sadness and sorrow along with hatred and exhaustion from living. Wang Lin softly said, "Senior brother." The moment he spoke, Qing Shui suddenly turned around. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with killing intent as he looked at Wang Lin. If he was anyone else, the smell of blood and killing intent would have made him tremble in fear and retreat. However, Wang Lin didn't. Qing Shui's killing intent was monstrous, but he, Wang Lin, was the same. In the end, they were the same kind of people. The reason they could have such a deep friendship and be willing to die for each other was because of this. Qing Lin's eyes filled with killing intent could not shock Wang Lin. Wang Lin also didn't only see killing intent in Qing Shui's eyes. He saw pain, sorrow, and melancholy, just like when he got his revenge against the Tang family. This is an illusion. It is true and false, but it is not our destination. Senior brother, sit down. We will enter the second illusion, Wang Lin whispered as he walked toward Qing Shui. Qing Shui silently pondered until Wang Lin was next to him. Then he slowly closed his eyes. However, 2 lines of tears flowed down and washed away the blood marks on his face. The tears flowed down along his neck and fell on the ground, mixing with the blood. Sit down, okay? Wang Lin stood before Qing Shui and placed his hands on Qing Shui's shoulders. After a long time, Qing Shui nodded and sat down with a bitter expression. He let out a deep breath and opened his eyes. Wang Lin, is this only the first illusion? Yes, this is only the first illusion. Wang Lin also sat down and looked at Qing Shui's eyes. A very realistic illusion, Xianxia murmured and looked around. In the end, his gaze fell on an intact tree in a palace in the distance. This tree seemed to have existed for a long time, struggling to survive. Looking at the tree, the slaughter in his eyes gradually dissipated, and in the end, he let out a sigh. Let S enter the second illusion. Wang Lin's hands formed a seal and his arm opened. He waved his sleeve, and the world of the first illusion began to distort. A rumble echoed and strands of black gas came out of the blood on the ground, and the broken arms on the ground began to rotate. In the end, everything in the first illusion gave off black gas and gathered above Wang Lin and Xianxia to form a giant ghostly face. The ghostly face gave off a silent roar and devoured the two. The moment it devoured them, Wang Lin and Xianxia's hearts rumbled. A giant vortex appeared, pulling their souls and divine senses into the ancient past. The world was in chaos, and this was the core of the cave. This was the center of the cave world, and where the door leading out of the cave was located. At this moment, in this core area, the heavenly Tao opened its mouth and devoured Lian Daofei. Thunderous rumbles echoed, and it was at this moment that Wang Lin appeared. This looked exactly the same as the illusion the seven-colored Taoist was in. Lian Daofei's angry roar echoed as the heavenly Tao was split and suffered serious injuries. At the same time, the seven-colored celestial sovereign had a sorrowful expression as his body collapsed. His body was completely torn apart, and his origin soul and soul mixed before exploding into the three souls and seven fragments. They scattered in all directions. This was different from when Wang Lin entered the seven-colored Taoist illusion. This time, he was the owner of the illusion, so what he saw was much more clear. The first thing he saw were the seven fragments. The seven fragments had the colors of the rainbow. The seven different colored fragments scattered to be reincarnated. One of them was bright red. This fragment controlled slaughter and contained the seven-colored celestial sovereign's shocking slaughter. There were countless souls around the red fragment. They were all souls of people the seven-colored celestial sovereign had killed. At this moment, the red fragment devoured them all and shined brightly as it flew into the distance. Wang Lin felt Xianxia's aura from this fragment. The moment the red fragment disappeared into reincarnation, Wang Lin saw a figure condense inside. This figure was Xianxia. There was also a fragment that was blue, and this fragment contained the seven-colored celestial sovereign's talent. To be able to reach void tribulent meant he must had the talent of a heaven's favored son. This blue soul quickly flew away, but once again, Wang Lin felt an aura he was extremely familiar with. This aura caused his heart to rumble, and he almost gasped. The moment the blue soul was about to disappear into reincarnation, Wang Lin saw a fuzzy figure inside the fragment. This figure was Situnan. No wonder Situnan's progress is so shocking and his cultivation level is constantly changing. So he is the seven-colored celestial sovereign's talent fragment. The third fragment was orange. This orange light was soft but was filled with a righteous aura. As it flew, all evil doers would tremble under this orange light. This orange light was the seven-colored celestial sovereign's conscience. The soul formed from the third fragment would be someone of integrity. In order to protect someone or something, he would do whatever it took, and no temptation would be able to move him. The moment this fragment was about to disappear into the reincarnation cycle, Wang Lin was shocked to find that the figure was Qing Lin. Qing Lin was the emperor of the Rain Celestial Realm. He had suffered temptation from the sovereign and was almost killed. However, he had done all of that to guard the Rain Celestial Realm. All of this was because he was the third fragment. There was also the fourth fragment. This fourth fragment was yellow, and its light was bright enough to light up the star system and almost compete with the three souls. The yellow represented luck. This soul would become someone who would have heaven-defying luck that would make anyone jealous. This person was like someone made by the heavens. Wherever he went, treasures would come to him. Whenever he encountered an enemy, they would likely kill themselves. When the fourth soul fragment of luck was about to disappear into the reincarnation cycle, Wang Lin saw Greed's vague figure. It's the middle of the month. Wishing Leo's video gets plenty of likes. Remember to like and share Leo's video, okay? And don't forget to leave your thoughts about the video. The fifth fragment was green. This green light represented a tree with the intent of spreading out its branches. This fragment was formed by the instincts of the seven-colored celestial sovereign. If this soul was immortal, then he would have many children. If this soul was a cultivator, his cultivation level wouldn't be high, but he would be very good with avatars, like the branches on a tree. This soul was covered in green light, and was not bright. It faintly disappeared into the reincarnation cycle, but Wang Lin still saw the blurry figure that appeared the moment it disappeared. Taoist scattered spirit, it's him, Wang Lin muttered. The shock in his heart seemed to have been accumulating for over 2,000 years. The sixth fragment was indigo. This indigo light gave off two feelings. One was gentle like water, and the other was cold like ice. This indigo fragment was formed by the love the celestial sovereign had. Although he had many concubines, he only had one Tao partner, Fang Shanmeng. The sixth fragment contained his complicated feelings about love. He loved Fang Shanmen but also hated her. Because of this love and hate, this sixth soul was different from the others. The sixth fragment was not a man, but a woman. The aura that came from this woman caused Wang Lin's heart to tremble violently. He suddenly looked up, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He never would be expected her to be one of the seven-colored celestial sovereign's soul fragments. When the sixth fragment dissipated, a blurry figure was revealed. This figure contained indifference and gentleness. Her complicated expression continued until the indifference covered up the gentleness so others would only feel the coldness. Wang Lin's face was pale. He recognized that figure. He didn't dare to believe this was true. Mu Bingmei. Mu Bingmei was an intersection between gentleness and indifference. Her life, no matter how many times she reincarnated, was the same. Her relationship with Wang Lin could only be described as complicated and complicated. The seven fragments separated into their individual souls. Although they had some links between each other, the connections were very weak. Unless the three souls fuse, the seven fragments would remain separated and continue to reincarnate like everyone else. The seventh fragment was purple, the extreme color. The seventh spirit was the seven-colored celestial sovereign's anger and madness when he collapsed, along with his unwillingness. He hated the heavens, he hated the earth, and he hated the woman he loved. His life might have been beautiful, but he was a pitiful person until he collapsed. His anger wouldn't dissipate, and it fused with the seventh fragment. This fragment was the first one to disappear, and it was clouded by the seven-colored celestial sovereign's anger and madness. Wang Lin was unable to see who was inside the seventh soul. However, he vaguely had a feeling that he had met the seventh fragment before. All of this happened in an instant, and the seven fragments dissipated. The shock Wang Lin felt was no weaker than finding the real third soul. The three souls appeared after the seven fragments scattered, and they split in three different directions. One of them gave off a powerful seven-colored light and seemed to be heading to what would become the outer realm after countless years. There he became the seven-colored Taoist and inherited all of the seven-colored celestial sovereign's spells. The second soul flew out into the opposite direction and entered reincarnation. After countless reincarnations, it became an ordinary-looking beast in Al-Heaven. His memory slowly awakened, and the moment he completely awakened, a dying old man smashed into the planet he was on. This old man was old Ghost John. He had failed his arcane tribulant, so his body was rotting and his origin soul had collapsed. In his dying moment, he let out a miserable smile. He saw a strange beast with a strange gaze jump at him. This was the celestial fortune old Ghost John had found. Wang Lin saw all of this. He also saw the third soul. The third soul flew to the furthest place, away from the core of the cave world and into the horizon. Wang Lin didn't hesitate to immediately chase after it at full speed. This was his second time pursuing it. This time, there was no seven-colored Taoist or anyone else to disturb him. He had to find out who the third soul was. Wang Lin could feel that the identity and location of the third soul was about to be unveiled. The third soul flew through the summoned river and arrived in Brilliant Void. It slowed down in the Brilliant Void as if it was looking for a place to reincarnate. Wang Lin followed it, using his full speed to barely keep up. He looked at the third soul, but it was cloudy without any shadow inside. It was obviously different from the other two souls. Before it reincarnated, there was no appearance. The third soul paused outside an abandoned planet for a bit. However, in the end, it didn't choose this place and flew past. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lin was still following the third soul. After the third soul circled around the Brilliant Void, it suddenly sped up and shot toward the cloud sea. Wang Lin's eyes shined brightly. He estimated the time that had passed. Back then, the seven-colored Taoist must have only seen the third soul enter the brilliant void and never saw it fly toward Cloud C, because he had been awakened by Wang Lin. However, when Wang Lin thought about this, he felt a sudden chill in his heart. This chill came from a thought that appeared in his mind. This third soul circled around the brilliant void as if it was looking for something, or perhaps it knew that the seven-colored Taoist would look for it countless years later. So it purposely delayed in the brilliant void. Wang Lin shook his head. He felt like this idea was simply too absurd. The third soul flew toward the back of the Cloud Sea and entered a wild planet. Wang Lin arrived and stared at the planet. Time passed. On a certain day, the planet collapsed and scattered in all directions. Large amounts of dust spread out, surrounding the planet. On one fragment, a python died and a ray of light flew into the star system. Wang Lin was shocked and moved at full speed, following that ray of light. He had found traces of the third soul's reincarnation, and now he was going to find who the third soul had reincarnated into. Was it a mortal, a cultivator, or a flower or tree, perhaps still a fierce beast? Wang Lin pursued the third soul for an unknown amount of time across the 4-star systems. He saw the third soul reincarnate time and time again. For one reincarnation, the third soul was a mortal scholar. This scholar was a nerd and only knew how to read books until he got a position as an official. After the scholar died of old age, the third soul flew out to the next reincarnation. There were men and women. That time, the third soul reincarnated into a towering tree. During those 1,000 years, it grew from a seedling until it withered and died. One time, it reincarnated into a cultivator. This cultivator's cultivation level wasn't too high. He had only managed to reach the core formation stage in his lifetime. He died when his lifespan ran out. Time continued to pass until the third soul chose to reincarnate on a planet in the brilliant void. That planet was very familiar. Wang Lin was shocked to find that this place was planet Suzaku. When Wang Lin saw this, his mind trembled. He didn't know if this was the end, but when he saw planet Suzaku, he vaguely guessed something. This third soul turned into a mortal on planet Suzaku. This mortal didn't cultivate, but his life was extremely bright. He became the grand scholar of the country of Zhao. His name was Su Dao. Wang Lin didn't see himself, but the shock in his head was like a monstrous wave. He didn't know why this person had appeared in his dream Dao. He didn't know why Su Dao had accepted him as a disciple in the dream Dao. It was as if there was a cycle of karma between them. However, Wang Lin couldn't find the karmic cause. He could only see the karmic effect. His karma was originally complete, but when he saw the third soul turn into Su Dao, he became confused. In his confusion, he saw Su Dao die of old age with a smile. After he died, the third soul flew out and changed directions once more. This time, it went toward Al Heaven. Wang Lin's heart trembled. Looking at how long had passed, it was getting close to the last reincarnation. He followed the third soul deep into Al Heaven, and the soul became a fish in a river on a planet. This planet was called Planet Qing Ling. This fish slowly grew up and swam through the rivers. It spent its entire life like this until it died. However, what made Wang Lin focus was that unlike before, the third soul didn't leave the planet like it did in the past. Instead, it reincarnated into another fish in the river. Again and again, it chose to reincarnate into the same river. It seemed to be waiting for something. This strange phenomenon made Wang Lin look at the familiar planet with a strange expression, and he vaguely had a guess. Wang Lin watched the third soul reincarnate hundreds of times. During the last reincarnation, there was a fisherman fishing, and the fish that was the third soul bit the bait on the hook. The fisherman pulled up the fish while laughing. It was as if it had reincarnated hundreds of times waiting for this fisherman, waiting for this bait. Nay Z is about to give birth. Today I'll just catch this one and go home. Mid-month, hoping to get the like button pressed for the video. The fisherman was a man about 30 years old. He was not big and looked somewhat weak. He didn't look like a fisherman, more like a scholar. He raised his hand and looked at the fish on his line. The sunlight shined off the stomach of the fish and made it look extraordinary. The man smiled and put the fish into a canister filled with water. He then left with the canister. Wang Lin looked at all of this, and the speculation he had filled his mind. After a moment of daze, he followed the man. The man walked for a while and arrived at a simple house next to the river. The house was surrounded by bamboo to form a courtyard. There were some poultry crying out as they fought for food around a pregnant woman. The woman was wearing plain clothes, but they didn't hide her good figure. She was holding a basket and was scattering the feed from inside the basket. The woman seemed tired as she held the basket with one hand, while the other hand rested on her waist. She wiped the sweat from her forehead as she looked at the door, waiting for her man to return. It was already the afternoon, and the sunlight was dazzling. Shortly after, footsteps could be heard from the bamboo forest, and the woman's smile became even wider. "Su-er, I caught a fish for you." The footsteps stopped outside the door, and the bamboo door was pushed open. The man walked in holding the canister with a smile. "I just suddenly wanted to eat fish. If I just endure it, the craving will pass." The woman's gaze was gentle. The man laughed and walked out to help his wife walk into the room. A moment later, smoke rose high into the air. From a distance, the smoke looked like a picture and gave off a certain sense of beauty. Wang Lin's figure floated inside the bamboo forest as he watched all of this and silently pondered. He vaguely understood that this might be the third soul's latest reincarnation. 3 days later, late at night, the world changed colors and thunder rumbled as rain fell. Large drops of rain hit the bamboos in the house. The sky and earth seemed to be connected by the rain. The lightning from the sky lit up the bamboo forest below. The pregnant woman was lying on a bed inside the house as she let out painful groans. Her hand clutched the quilt, and there was a midwife beside her. Outside the room, the man was calm as he looked at the rain outside. However, his clenched fists revealed the anxiousness in his heart. Time slowly passed. The woman's voice became even more weak. This made his heart feel even more pain. However, his expression didn't change. Instead, his eyes lit up as he looked at the sky darkened by rain. "I, Shi Dongming, have been studying since I was a child. I have stayed truthful and focused on my studies. While I was in office, I worked to help the people, and when I left, I never made any grudges with anyone. In my measly 33 years of life, I have never done anything I am ashamed about. God, now that my child is about to appear, why do you make it difficult for Naizi?" The woman's right hand hit the bamboo wall. Blood flowed down from his finger and dropped to the ground before it was washed away by the rain. Just as the blood and water fused, thunder rumbled in the sky. At the same time, the cry of the baby suddenly came from the room, and the man's entire body trembled. His calmness was replaced by excitement, and he quickly turned around. The door to the room was opened as the midwife covered in sweat came out with a kind smile while holding a baby. "Congratulations, Lord Si, both mother and child are safe." The man excitedly walked up to the child and, after taking a look, immediately entered the room. Compared to the child, he was more worried about his wife. She was lying in bed looking very pale, but she had a gentle smile as she looked at her husband. The woman softly said, "It's a boy." "Su'er, rest a bit more. I have already thought of a name. Since it's a boy, his name will be Ji King. I want him to grow up like the bamboo that be high off the ground and become a grand scholar." The man laughed. As he laughed, the baby held by the midwife seems to have stopped crying. He opened his eyes and there seemed to be a flash of mysterious light in them. The warmth of the room, the thunder from the sky, and the laughter of the man mixed together to enter Wang Lin's heart. Wang Lin trembled as everything seemed to condense into that one roar that caused his body to tremble. Wang Lin retreated a few steps as he stared at the house, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He had a vague speculation earlier, and now it was confirmed, but it still set off a storm in his heart. At this instant, Wang Lin could no longer hear the thunder or the laughter from inside the house. The vision became blurry, and he could only hear one voice echo in his ears. "Ji Xing, Ji Xing. The third soul is Ji." Wang Lin's mouth opened as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't know what he should say. His mind was a mess. When he started chasing the third soul, he had speculated on who the third soul was. He had thought of mortals, cultivators, and even fierce beasts, but he didn't expect it to be Shi King. It was actually his disciple. Wang Lin's face was deathly pale as he continued to retreat. He was the first person to know who the third soul was, but this knowledge left him with a difficult choice: to kill or not to kill. The world rumbled, and the thunder became even more violent. The rain fell like crazy, and the wind swept the rain, causing it to dance in the sky. Wang Lin could never forget that he lost himself here in confusion while searching for Tao. He had inquired the grand scholar about what Tao was. He had asked everyone he could ask until he asked Shi Qing. It was also Shi Qing that had given him understanding and enlightenment. He also couldn't forget when he sat on the peak of the mountain to cultivate. That Shi Qing, who was already old, had climbed up the mountain and insisted on learning Tao from him. I thought I understood everything about human relations and gained enlightenment in the world of academics. I gave myself the duty of civilizing the world. However, in my twilight years, I suddenly gained enlightenment. I am a fish in the water. This was what Shi Qing had said when he climbed up the mountain. When Wang Lin heard this, he only understood the first few lines, but he didn't think too much about the last sentence. At that time, he didn't have any thoughts about pondering that last sentence, and even if he did, he wouldn't have found any answers. However, as he watched the reincarnation cycle of the third soul, he saw it reincarnate hundreds of times as a fish, and then realized that the third soul was Shi Qing. How could he not understand what it meant now? So it turns out I was a fish in the water. Wang Lin looked up bitterly at the warm light from the house. He remembered what Shi Qing had said, and he understood. Why would he meet Su Dao and have Su Dao guide him to become the grand scholar of not only Zhao but the entire planet of Suzaku? This was all karma. Wang Lin had thought that he had completed his karma, but he still found that karma was something you could see but not touch. Back then, I inadvertently gave pointers to Shi Qing and took him as my disciple. He was the seven-colored celestial sovereign's third soul. This created karma between us. This is the karmic cause. It was also because of this that Su Dao appeared in my dream Dao. In reality, he is my disciple, and in the dream Dao, I was his disciple. This formed a cycle of karma. I should have thought of this. Wang Lin took a step. When his foot landed, the world rumbled. The sky shattered into pieces and the earth collapsed as if there was a dragon moving below. Everything dissipated, leaving only the house and the warm and happy light that came from within. Wang Lin retreated a second step. The moment his foot landed, the house became distorted and countless shadows appeared. It made it impossible to know if the house or the body was moving as they gradually became blurry and were devoured by the shadows. Wang Lin's figure was also blurry. When his figure became clear, he appeared in the first illusion. Xing Shui opened his eyes and looked at Wang Lin, letting out a sigh. The bitterness was still on his face. Wang Lin muttered something only he could hear and took a third step back. When his third step landed, the first illusion of the palace of Qing Shui's country that was stained in blood suddenly collapsed. This collapse shattered the palace, the earth and sky, and even all the bloodstains on the ground, forming a giant vortex. The vortex rotated faster and faster before forming a giant ghostly face. The ghostly face let out a silent roar and rushed to devour Wang Lin and Qing Shui. In a flash, it devoured the two of them, and they disappeared into the void. Everything disappeared into the flow of time, and the illusion collapsed. Cave world. Celestial realm. At the mountain peak, Wang Lin and Qing Shui both opened their eyes at the same time. What happened was like a dream that was so real, it was difficult to tell what was real and what was fake. Wang Lin's face was pale as he looked up at the sky with struggle in his eyes. The third soul is him. Welcome everyone to watch. Fans of the narrative chapter expressed their wishes for praise in the latest installment. May the new chapter receive even more acclaim. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. The wind in the celestial realm carried dense celestial energy. If blown on your face when your mood was good, it would make you feel very comfortable. However, if your mood was complicated, then no matter how much celestial energy was in the wind, it wouldn't make you feel comfortable. Qing Shui stood up and looked back at Wang Lin. After pondering for a moment, he didn't speak, but let out a sigh and left. He naturally knew who the third soul was and its relationship with Wang Lin. He understood Wang Lin's struggle. Even after Qing Shui left, Wang Lin still sat there, staring at the sky. The struggle in his eyes didn't disappear. If the third soul was irrelevant to Wang Lin, then he would not hesitate to do whatever it took to seal it or destroy it, to prevent the 7 fragments from being absorbed after the 3 souls fuse. However, the third soul was He Qing, his disciple. If he was forced to kill his own disciple, his heart would ache. After a long time, Wang Lin let out a sigh and withdrew his gaze from the sky as night fell. He still couldn't decide what he should do, but he vaguely had an answer in his heart. However, aside from the identity of the third soul, there were still two questions plaguing Wang Lin. This made the originally clear truth blurry once more. The Alzir was part of the heavenly Tao. During the battle with the Alzir, I entered his reincarnation and saw that during the beginning, he devoured the seventh fragment. However, when I saw the seven-colored celestial sovereign collapse into the three souls and seven fragments, I saw the seventh fragment. Wang Lin closed his eyes and began to ponder. I saw the seventh fragment disappear into reincarnation. Perhaps it did enter reincarnation, and after reincarnating a certain amount of times, it was devoured by the All-Seer. The seventh soul was purple and represented anger and madness. He was devoured by the Alzir. They should have integrated into one. However, when the nether beast devoured the Alzir, I didn't sense the seventh fragment at all. Wang Lin opened his eyes and there was a glint of coldness. If my feeling is wrong, it doesn't matter. But if I am right and there is no seventh soul inside the heavenly Tao, then where it is? Who is it? Wang Lin frowned. Earlier, the heavenly Tao couldn't devour the four generals and old Ghost John, so I had my doubts that the heavenly Tao was incomplete. If my guess is correct, then the heavenly Tao really is incomplete. One part is still missing. Perhaps the missing part is the seventh fragment. Is there another all-seer avatar that's not dead? Wang Lin's pupils suddenly shrank. I almost forgot about the gray-robed all-seer. Wang Lin took a deep breath. Perhaps it's not him. On the mountain, Wang Lin pondered for a long time. The first question troubled him, and there was no answer. However, compared to the first question, the second question troubled Wang Lin even more and confused his thoughts. I know 6 of the 7 fragments. Qing Shui, Situ, Greed, Qing Lin, Mu Bing Mei, Taoist, Scattered Spirit. I was not surprised about Qing Shui and Situ being fragments of the 7-colored celestial sovereign, because I didn't find their fate souls inside the divine retribution. However, I found their fate souls inside the divine retribution. This was my method of finding who are the 7 fragments, but now it seems to be contradicting. Wang Lin rubbed his temples. He didn't understand. To have one's fate soul inside the divine retribution means they are people of the cave world. How can these people be the fragments of the 7-colored celestial sovereign? There is a problem here. Wang Lin looked up at the night of the celestial realm and pondered. He pointed to between his eyebrows at the nether beast that was inside him. I can figure it out, but I vaguely feel that this matter is very important. It might even be the solution to resolve the fusion of the 3 souls. If what I saw inside the illusion is not all true, then there is no explanation. If what I saw is true and Qing Lin and them are really the 7 fragments, then finding their fate souls inside the divine retribution can be explained. Wang Lin's eyes slowly became bloodshot. He seemed to have entered a dead end he couldn't understand or get out of. Not far behind Wang Lin, Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo opened his eyes. He had been observing Wang Lin. Whether it was the dream of planet Suzaku or the search for the third soul, he had observed it all. He has entered a loop and can figure it out in a short period. In truth, this matter is very simple. Xuan Luo raised his right hand and pointed at Wang Lin. With this, Wang Lin's body trembled. He didn't notice Xuan Luo's existence, but at this moment, it was as if thunder had flashed across his mind. It gave him a strange thought. Mutation! This is mutation! Wang Lin took a deep breath and his eyes became bright. At this moment, his mind was extremely clear, and it was as if nothing in the world could escape his thoughts. Whether it is Qing Lin, Greed, Mu Bing Mei, or Taoist Scattered Spirit, at the start they were like Qing Shui and Situ. There was no fate soul. However, as they entered the reincarnation cycle again and again, a strange change occurred. They became real individuals and completely separated from the 7-colored celestial sovereign. They might have the same origin, but after these mysterious changes, they become a true resident of the cave world. They reincarnated again and again, changed again and again, integrated with the world again and again. Now they were completely separated from the 7-colored celestial sovereign. This is the power of creation. This is the power closest to the core of the heavenly Tao. This is mutation. The mutations that occurred on these 4 caused my thoughts to remain blurry. Wang Lin muttered. The thought came to him suddenly and erased his confusion. As for Qing Shui and Situ, they haven't completely changed into independent individuals due to the mutation, perhaps of tens of thousands of years past, and they went through the reincarnation cycle more times, they would one day be truly separated from the seven-colored celestial sovereign due to the mysterious power of the heavenly Tao. Wang Lin took a deep breath. The clarity in his mind made everything surge toward him. If the power inside the heavenly Tao can change the seven fragments, then it can change the three souls as well. If I can control this force, I can make the third soul independent. Once it becomes independent, the three souls won't be able to use. If the three souls can fuse, then everything is solved. However, what kind of force is this? Even though Wang Lin's mind was clear, he couldn't imagine what the core power of the heavenly Tao was. His heavenly Tao was incomplete, or better to say, he couldn't understand the heavenly Tao he controlled. Because of this heavenly Tao, life could appear and all the laws and rules of the world would form. The clarity in his mind gradually dissipated as Came appeared on the horizon. In the distance, Xuan Luo let out a sigh. Heavenly Tao, forget him. Even I couldn't understand a lot of its mysteries. Only during that lucky moment when I became a Grand Empyrean did I understand a bit more, but to see through it completely would require my cultivation to take a step further. Xuan Luo's eyes revealed a mysterious light. Even the 9 suns are searching for the path forward, but no one can find it. We can only use the time we are forced to reincarnate to ponder the heavenly Tao first came from the immemorial God realm. I don't even know when the mysterious immemorial God realm first appeared, or when people will fully understand it. Xuan Luo raised his right hand and looked at this index finger. There was a black circle that slowly rotated and emitted the aura of the heavenly Tao. In the early morning, the light washed away the night. When the ray of light shined over the earth, Wang Lin stopped thinking and took a deep breath. He stood up and looked up with a complicated gaze. With one step, he disappeared into the distance. At this moment, his figure seemed to be competing with the rising sun as he broke through the sky and rushed out of the Silver River. He rushed toward heaven. Ripples echoed as Wang Lin merged with the void and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in heaven. One step to cross the star system. After he appeared, he didn't spread out his divine sense but closed his eyes. Shi Qing was his disciple, and they were connected by karma. With this connection, he could feel Shi Qing's existence without his divine sense. After a long time, Wang Lin opened his eyes and turned to the east, his gaze becoming even more complicated. He sensed that Shi Qing was on a planet deep to the east, as if Shi Qing was waiting for him. Are you really waiting for me? Wang Lin let out a sigh and walked toward the east. His body slowly fused into the void and disappeared. At this moment in heaven, the 4 generals were flying forward. The giant fog beast shook its head and continued to search. Its eyes shined brightly as if it had already found a trace. Old Ghost John followed the 4 generals, and his eyes shined brightly. He understood what the gaze the fog beast had meant. Also in heaven, the 7-colored Taoist entered from its border with Summoned River. He found nothing in Summoned River, so he began to carefully search heaven. Today marks the first watch, longing for the like button for the VIDEO. The VIDEO wants to charge up the trending charts, hoping the veteran supporters lend their firepower. In the eastern part of the vast heaven star system, there was a planet. Although this planet had spiritual energy, it wasn't dense. It was an ordinary cultivation planet. After the 2 wars, not many cultivators were left on this planet. Only foundation establishment and core formation cultivators remained. Most sects were abandoned. It was autumn. The autumn wind blew by, causing the dead yellow leaves to fly through the sky. There was a valley between the mountains. The valley was filled with autumn orchids. This kind of orchid only bloomed in autumn. The fragrance of the flowers wasn't strong, and under the autumn wind, there was a sense of desolation. Every autumn, the orchid in the valley was very beautiful, but they only bloomed for less than a season until winter came. All the orchids would wither until the snow covered them. They would disappear into the cold winter until the autumn wind of the next year awakened them once more. Right now, it was not far away from late autumn. The orchids in the valley were blooming, revealing the last of their beauty for the year. Deep inside the orchid, there was a house. This house was very dilapidated and had obviously been empty for a long time. Perhaps thousands of years ago, someone had lived here and died with the orchids. Right now, there was an old man sitting outside the house. He wore blue and his face was filled with wrinkles. He silently looked at the orchids before him, and his eyes were melancholy. autumn wind blew through the valley, causing the orchids to sway. The winds landed on the old man's body, causing his clothes to flutter and a few strands of his hair to drift. A few yellow leaves silently floated toward the valley before the old man. At that instant, the leaves blocked the view of the orchids. The old man let out a sigh and raised his head. He suddenly began to cough violently for a long time before he calmed down. He looked at the autumn leaves with a strange gaze, his eyes filled with reluctance. Autumn has arrived. These orchids don't have much time left. Soon they will wither and die. Only by this time next year they will bloom once more. But I will not be here to watch them bloom. The old man shook his head and raised his hand. He looked at his hand and saw a strange orchid-like mark that gave off bursts of light. Over the years, these 3 seals have been completed. This is the last thing I'll do for my teacher, the old man murmured. This day next year, where will I be? I don't want to reincarnate anymore. I just want to close my eyes, teacher. Are you coming? The old man raised his head. The old man didn't look back. He sat there as he bitterly said, I know you here. The autumn wind took those autumn leaves into the sky and far away from the valley. However, the figure that came with the wind stood behind the old man and looked ahead. It was unknown if the figure was looking at the old man or the orchids that were about to wither. Perhaps it was all the same. Wang Lin stood there in a white. The old man lowered his head and slowly turned around. He looked at Wang Lin with a complicated gaze followed by bitterness and then calmness. However, there was respect hidden deep in his eyes. After a long time, he slowly knelt down and whispered, Disciple Xiqing greets teacher. Wang Lin looked at Xiqing, and his heart ached as if all the blood had been drained from it. He saw Xiqing's current physical state. Xiqing knelt there and softly said, The 7-colored celestial sovereign's third soul is me, but I am Xiqing, not him. Why is it you? Wang Lin's face was pale. He didn't have much contact with Xiqing, but like 13, they were both his disciples. Teacher, Xiqing looked at Wang Lin, and his eyes slowly became moist. After a part of disciple's memories were awakened, I chose to escape. I struggled. I was unwilling. I came here to look at the orchids and think about my life. I finally understood that I am Xiqing. I am not the 7-colored celestial sovereign Sudao. Xiqing smiled. The third soul of the 7-colored celestial sovereign contains memories of his life, and is very useful to teacher. I know that right now the first soul, the second soul, and the 4 generals are all looking for me. Although the 4 generals were servants of the 7-colored celestial sovereign, over the years their thoughts have changed. They are looking for the third soul for their own purpose. No matter which of them find me, I can escape the fate of being devoured. Teacher, this is the fate of the 7-colored celestial sovereign. This is my fate. I can escape. Even entering the reincarnation cycle 1 work, the third soul has escaped for so many years. But now it is the end. The third soul only has memories, no divine sense, no origin soul, no spells. Although the soul is strong, it has no ability to protect itself. Rather than being devoured by others, I'd rather give it to teacher. Xiqing muttered bitterly. Wang Lin silently pondered, and his heart felt stinging pain. Although he was standing there, it felt like he had entered an area that was very cold. The coldness penetrated his bones and caused pain throughout his body. Earlier he had told Qing Shui that he would kill the third soul to keep Qing Shui safe, but now how could he do it? This was not keeping his promise, but killing one's own child. His memory of Xiqing appeared in Wang Lin's mind. Although they had been buried in his mind, they were so clear right now. How could he forget? Wang Lin cared about relationships. Teacher, disciple has made preparations. If I don't die once I am found, the other 2 souls will fuse, and then the 7 fragments will automatically return. Although I feel that 5 of the 7 have been completely separated, the remaining 2 will return. I can also feel that those 2 are very important to teacher. If I don't die, the third soul won't appear. If I don't die, they will die. If I don't die, the 7-colored celestial sovereign's 3 souls will return back to 1, and teacher will die. Xiqing looked at Wang Lin, his eyes bright. Over the years, after the third soul awakened, I used my soul cultivation and formed 3 seals. The first seal requires no external force. Once I die, the third soul won't enter reincarnation and can be taken by teacher. At that time, the third soul will completely awaken after my death. It will open up the core of the cave world, go there, and open the door. Teacher will be able to leave the cave world. The remaining 2 seals are something I prepared for Teacher, borrowing the force that will rush in once the door opens. Teacher can borrow that power and combine it with these 2 seals to seal the first and second souls. Then everything will calm down. As Xianxia spoke, he began to cough. As he coughed out a mouthful of blood that sprinkled on the orchids before him. It dyed the flowers red, creating a shocking sight. This was because his soul had been exhausted. For these 3 seals, he had given it his all. Wang Lin looked at Xianxia and couldn't say a word. He listened to Xianxia, and when he saw Xianxia cough out blood, his heart ached even more. At this moment, he suddenly looked up at the sky. His expression was fierce as he let out a roar. I, Wang Lin, took my own fate back from the heavenly fate and became the master of the heavenly Tao. But why can I still not decide my own fate? Why am I forced to encounter such a decision? Heaven, whether it is the heaven of the cave world or the heaven of the immortal astral continent, do you see this? If the heavens are so unkind, then I, Wang Lin, vow to destroy the heavens in my lifetime. The veins on Wang Lin's face swelled, and he looked crazy as he let out a roar. His body erupted with a powerful aura. This aura was like smoke and quickly gathered to form an illusionary sword. This sword gave off a shocking aura that could destroy the heavens. At this moment, Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo's expression changed greatly for the first time since he entered the cave world. He stared at the illusory sword around Wang Lin that only he could see and was shocked. Void Extinction Aura. This is the Void Extinction Aura. This kid's words could create the Void Extinction Aura. He. As Xianxia looked at Wang Lin, tears began to flow. He knelt down and kowtowed once. My soul has been seriously injured while waiting for Teacher to come. I also hesitated, but now I have no regrets. There's no need for Teacher to act. I am at death's doorstep. This is the last time I'll call Teacher. Xianxia looked at the orchids before him and closed his eyes. The tears that were about to fall were stopped as he revealed a smile and took in his last breath. He was dead. The moment he died, slivers of souls came out of his body. This was the 3rd soul. This contained the memories of the 3rd soul's countless reincarnations, including Xianxia's life. Due to Xianxia's seal, the 3rd soul could not enter reincarnation. The memories rapidly dissipated, and once they completely dissipated, Xianxia would be gone forever. This is not the last time. Wang Lin, filled with anger, suddenly lowered his head. This was anger at the world. He stepped forward and arrived next to Xianxia. He waved his hand and caught the 3rd soul. The moment he grabbed the 3rd soul, it completely awakened. The planet rumbled violently and the sky churned. The 4 great star systems trembled. Even the outer realm faced a shocking change at this moment. For now, just the first watch today. Leo will rest tonight and start catching up on the missed chapters tomorrow.